Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Live.
Former Nike executive. Cooper flag with a two-hander. Can't get one up. Now it's Daly with a deep one, and it goes. Hussein looking to turn the corner. The floater is good. It's amazing. And Houston the other way, leading by a point. Cryer off 1 foot, step back, rolls it home. Jayhawks won for their last 9. They haven't scored in over 3 minutes, and yet within 5. And David Coit ends that stretch.
Last 9 games, he's averaging 4 points, 4 rebounds. He's still got a bright future. And he's going to get his chance to guard some guys that bring the energy like Tugler every single night. Take a look, but this is what matters right here.
To me, was the head hanging. That is what took that game from 6 to almost 20. And we were fragile, okay? When you lose several in a row and things aren't going your way, you drop your heads. You know, the fragility sets in. Now all of a sudden they smell blood, and you know, that thing gets up to 20. Now we showed what we're capable of. We came back and took a lead. I think 19 we were down, and then we take a lead with 6 minutes left. So in 10 minutes play, we were able to erase and take a lead from a 19-point deficit. So we certainly showed what we're capable of. I told the guy, it's okay. It's allowed in the game of basketball when things aren't going well to talk to each other. Okay, it's still okay. It doesn't only have to happen when things are going good for your basketball team.
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. What's up, DB?
Oh, hello.
Hello, sir.
How we doing?
Oh, we're doing all right.
I'm trying not to eat this microphone.
Yeah, don't eat it. I don't think it'll work very good after that.
A microphone fiend.
Microphone check. Here's my question.
Do you know microphone fiend?
I don't know microphone fiend, unfortunately.
It's okay.
That's on me, you know? That's on me.
No. Even though you do have an old soul, that's 80s. That's not going to be your jam.
So there's some genres that I can go pretty far back on, like 60s, 70s.
Timmy Jeanry?
Jeanry. But usually hip hop, that kind of stuff, I'm more recent, like my lifetime.
Yeah.
My mom would listen to a lot of oldies and stuff when I was in the car growing up, so I've got a pretty good wide berth on those.
A wide berth?
A wide berth, yeah.
Like oldies, hip-hop oldies?
Like your hips? It's hip-hop. What do you mean?
Hip-hop?
Like your hips?
Hip-Hop Anonymous?
Don't tell me. Hip-Hop Anonymous. Big Daddy.
Yes. Nice. Good job.
Let's go. Slid that one in on me.
Yeah, you know, just keep you on your toes early.
I'm a big Eric B. and Rakim guy.
Yeah?
Yes, I am.
I went back and got a little bit of Eric B. and Rakim in college.
I think Rakim should have come first, but I am not going to fight over their brilliance.
Yeah.
Or name title. It's fine. It's totally fine. Shane, good morning. I
Good
thought
morning.
about this. We never say good morning to Shane.
I do when you're not here.
That doesn't count.
I'm just saying.
We say good morning to each other. Everybody greets everybody when they see him in the morning, but our listeners don't know that we acknowledge our little friend.
It's true.
Good morning again.
It's true.
Hello, Shane. Well, his voice is, I can't remember the name of the group, but his voice does carry. Gambam?
Oh, yeah. You know, he's got kind of like the booming big voice guy voice. It works.
Good morning again.
Good morning again.
He's got the
That's those Pall Malls he turns and burns.
got that classic radio voice. That's what we like to call it.
Yeah, got that FM DJ look. But no, man, it's good. It was a lot of bad sports.
A little rough out there last night. Some bad beats.
Yeah, several.
Yeah. Your UCLA Northwestern was pretty rough. I'm not mad about it because I took the other side, but it's not great.
And I'm just here for entertainment purposes, so I can laugh. But that intentional foul was a doozy.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I
mean, I'm gonna take it.
I can tell you though.
Although it did close at 2.5. If that helps you at all.
Well, I just listen. My job is to have our listeners beat the closing line.
Yeah.
And we beat the closing line by a full point.
Yeah.
Some people, I was gonna say, how do you think people feel about hookers? But I think it depends on who you are. But like do you think people play 3.5, or do you think they pay like $10 to take it to 4?
Ooh, in basketball, I don't.
Or vice versa, if you wanted.
Yeah, if you want to go the other way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Are you a hook guy?
Typically am not a buy the hook guy.
Not a hook guy?
No, I don't really see the point.
Do you have like a key number in basketball, like 1.5 to 2?
So my 1.5 to 2 is I'll take the money line versus the spread.
Oh.
If I'm under 2, I'll take the money line.
Yeah, because you don't mind a little Tropicana.
Yeah, I'll take a little juice.
125, 130.
Yeah, I'll get a little juice,
Or you'll take the plus 110.
Yeah. Usually it's on the plus side.
I hear you.
But if I'm just doing, if it's under 2, I'll usually go money line. That's kind of where I make my distinction rather than trying to buy half a point.
Yeah, how about just
because you're going to lose the half. You're going to lose the juice with the buying the half point anyway. So
it was 68-58 with a minute, right? Minute,
I believe
10,
so
something like that.
Let me see if I can check the game cast here.
It was 10 under a minute 30.
Yeah, I've got it at.
Is that safe? This is totally memorization. So
yeah,
I need a little grace.
It is. I've got it at 135.
Ooh, I was close. Did I say 130?
Yeah.
Thank you for the 5-second grace.
Yeah. Oh, I'll give that to you.
Thank you. Well, some people live by their 5 seconds.
Live by it, die by it.
Yeah. 5-second rule, Shane?
Yours is like the 5-hour rule on the stove though. Just leaving stuff out.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It cost me yesterday.
Did it?
Yeah.
What happened?
I'll be honest. I don't know if I feel like being divulging.
All right.
I'm just throwing myself under the bus.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my nephew at the restaurant had some combo fried rice from a local establishment. Very fine local establishment. Nice place. And it's not what I wanted because I did not want to partake in the rice.
Sure.
But he got it.
I got it. Let's try it. It rated 1 through 10.
He tries.
All right, Keith.
Fudge. Other people, when they talk, they put their hands over them.
It's spicy. It's got some bite in there. Oh, it's got a hint of lime.
You know what's the worst part?
I got it. Let's try it. They rated 1 through 10.
Is you can still hear him chew.
Man.
Like he's covered his mouth so you can't hear him chew. You
My
can still hear him
algorithm is all
chew.
screwed up, man. I got Scotty Eats, which is my boy Scotty Davis. I got Diego in the O. I got Mr. Chime Time. I got Keith Lee. But I do find out a lot about food.
I got people chewing off my timeline. I'm out of there.
Yeah, it's
not trying to listen to people chew.
It's aggravating. So I'm like, shoot. I'm like, I should get a to go. Number one, I could at least worst case scenario, I could split it in half because I know Michael will take it for lunch. He likes to eat as close to home cooked stuff as possible. He always takes something in a container. So he took half, and I didn't eat last night until literally 7:50.
Okay,
literally. Zoe had softball. It was just and fudge. I just wasn't super motivated, and so she likes walking tacos. So I had done some ground turkey and whatever, so she could eat kind of at her leisure, which I frown upon because I like to eat together. Anyway, I say all that to say I did not put the food from Sunday in the fridge.
Ooh.
No, it's fine. Let's be honest.
It's not, though.
So last night, I knew I was going to pick the chunks of meat out anyway. And I looked at my bowl about halfway through, and I'm like, man, this smells a lot better than it tastes. Didn't hold.
Yeah.
I wonder what – I don't think the fridge would have changed it. I just think it's something with – I don't know. It just smelled a lot better when he was sitting next to me. It smelled amazing. You know how like this certain amount of like MSG and sesame.
Oh, yeah.
It like just hits you.
Is that umami?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which we have, by the way.
Yeah.
Having many Asian market in the pantry. So I didn't end up finishing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So who knows? Like I should be hungry, but I'm not.
It's weird.
I'm like beef. So I watched, the sports scene.
It was rough yesterday.
Just no bueno.
It was a little rough yesterday.
And how soon before we start our early tournaments?
Tomorrow, I think.
Because I know like FGCU and Queens and those guys started yesterday.
Yeah, I think the main sort of draw starts for the mid-major, low-major tournaments start tomorrow mostly, I think.
Okay, let's get it going.
I think so. We should have some better stuff. It was a little rough out there for your boy last night watching. There wasn't a lot to watch.
Yeah. You watched another Duke blowout.
Yeah. It's
You want my hot take?
Yeah.
If you want to know Cooper Flagg's NBA trajectory,
Yeah, what's the comp?
it's exactly what you're watching. Cooper Flagg in the NBA will be he'll be a 17-9-4 guy. 16-9-4.
So you think the scoring upside is a little more limited than a lot of people?
Yeah, I think he's ready made, but he's not going to be spectacular. He's going to be good.
High floor, lower ceiling?
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
He's
not even going to be Banchero.
Well, no, I think Banchero's way better than people realize.
Oh.
Banchero's
thank you. Yes, he is.
Banchero's really freaking
He's
good.
Fantastic. He's a goddamn afterthought.
He's way better than I thought he would be coming out of Duke. My question with him coming out of Duke was, and maybe I wasn't seeing it right, but I thought he kind of bullied his way through college a little bit.
Yeah, a little more skilled than you thought.
A little more skilled than I thought, a little more athletic than I thought. He's a little quicker than I thought.
He can shoot that thing too.
We're talking yesterday about kind of problem solvers, right? He felt like a guy that kind of was able to bully his way through that point in his career. And I go, I don't know if he's going to be able to solve the problems in the NBA. His skill set's way better. Yeah. His athleticism is way better. His problem solving is way better than I thought. Yeah, he's really, really good.
So as they're continuing to drug people, I will brace myself for when they arrive at Chapel Hill.
Yeah.
This week.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
He'll be fine.
I don't need your pessimism.
No, it's all good. It's fine.
Oh, my gosh. I kind of, you know what I thought about? This is how deranged I am.
What?
I was thinking about zipping that vest up so it covered your mouth.
Right over my face?
Just freaking pummeling you. Isn't that terrible?
Yeah, a little bit.
And it was immediate. That's a problem.
Yeah, no, it's the violent tendency.
That is an absolute. I was like, it's the quickest amount of time I can just be destructive. It immediately just ran through my mind. That's sad. I should not have said that.
It's all right. Just talk through it instead of doing it. That's a plus.
I like to process, man. It was like, so I'm watching Kansas last night, and
real quick on Duke Wake Forest before we get to Kansas.
Yeah. What do you got on Duke Wake?
So I know we've talked all year about how the ACC is not very good. It's still very startling to sit here and watch a 20-win, 12-conference win ACC team not even really be on the bubble.
Yeah.
On the wrong side.
Yep. You're talking about Wake.
Yeah, that's startling. Yeah. Like I knew Wake probably wasn't in. I knew the ACC was bad. But to have it sitting there staring me in the face and go 20-win team, 12 of those wins are in the ACC. And they're not even close. Yeah. They're talking last night. Yeah, if they get this game against Duke at Duke, number 2 team in the country, then they might get onto the bubble. Mm-hmm. It's not even, hey, you're in. Yeah. You might get onto the bubble. That win at Duke would have been worth less than Xavier beating Creighton on Saturday to their tournament resume.
It's a horrific conference.
That's so jarring to me.
It's a horrific conference.
They might get 3 teams in.
Well, keep an eye on Carolina.
They'll have to make a little run, probably.
Keep an eye on Carolina. I hate to say it because missing the tournament would, I don't know, hopefully get those border regions to move.
I mean, that's got to put the nail in the coffin, right? You can't miss the tournament 2 times in 3 years at Carolina.
Yeah, I just don't know how the extension reads that he got last year or before the season started. So
I read an article, I don't know if it's true, that it added the 1 year, but it did lower the buyout.
Yeah, we need low buyouts.
That's what I read.
It's not like they're not papered up. I mean,
I'm not super worried about it. If they want to get rid of Hubie, they'll do it.
Yeah, it's Hubie. By the way, did you see his last broadcast a month ago?
Huh?
91-year-old.
Oh no, yeah. Hubie Brown. Yeah,
that was a struggle to watch, but I was happy for him.
I was happy he kind of got to go out on his
the thing that was most impressive
is
that he was still able to see.
Yeah.
Because the glasses they're huge.
Yeah.
And he's got the bad eye. And I'm like, he's slow, but he's not wrong.
Yeah, he still sees what's happening.
Yeah.
It doesn't process it super fast anymore.
Yeah, he's slow, but it's not like
But he's accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like, and this is sort of what I worry about with Lee Corso a little bit, sort of in a similar older guy doing this job. I do worry about I don't like it when they kind of just have to disappear, right? I like when they get to have their moment to like their sign off.
You're a big fade to black guy?
Yeah, just like give them their chance. Like he's obviously been
It's fade to black.
like QB's been in professional basketball for like
5,
70
4,
years.
3, 2, 1, and we're clear.
See,
That's how you like That's how you like their career.
I like it to not just be they just couldn't show up to work one day.
Yeah, the opposite would be jarring.
Yeah,
No, yeah.
it's just like anticlimactic. They don't get the moment to feel appreciated, right? You talk about it all the time. Guys don't get their flowers while they're alive. I like it when that happens and they get their moment.
Some people do, men don't.
Yeah, but I like when they're able to have that moment. I enjoy. I'm sentimental for it for some reason. It's one of the few times it looks like I'm a person.
Big Kelly Clarkson fan?
She's okay.
Yeah. So a moment like this?
Not one of my faves. Really,
That's
more
what you're talking about.
Really more of a behind these hazel eyes guy.
Oh, wow.
But
Fudge.
no, it's but yeah.
What is wrong with you?
I don't know.
It's too early for this.
So I did this on NBNR last week. I really enjoy coming up with the most obscure reference I can. So we were talking about random Duke basketball players, and I pulled a Josh McRoberts out, and I was really proud of myself.
As my friend Onion, Big Head Brian would say, McBob.
Yeah, McBob. I was really mad because I had it on the tip of my tongue. I was trying to pull Shavlik Randolph, and I couldn't quite.
Do you know how good he was supposed to be? Good.
He was supposed to be a dude. So was McRoberts. McRoberts was like the number one player in the country coming out of high school.
But greater than like Kyle Singler, or
yeah, more random than Kyle Singler.
You think Singler's a household, even though he was stayed in the league?
So not household now.
Household like more than what? Danny Ferry?
Danny Ferry's probably a little older, so that's
what about Mark Allery?
I didn't have Mark Allery. I pulled like more reason, like a Filipowski.
Robert Bricky?
I don't remember Robert Bricky.
He shot a lot of them. He fit the stereotype, though. Athletic pogo stick, can't really shoot. But he can get to the rim.
Get to the rack. He's a slasher.
Yeah. Do you know for the longest time, I don't even know why I'm about to say this, but it's whatever. Super authentic. I used to think that brothers couldn't shoot. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
I kind of grew up thinking that.
I think that was the common.
And then I was like, ooh, a good jump shooter. That's weird.
I think that was the common perception at the time.
And then for a while, we could only do one or the other.
Yeah, you can't be athletic and shoot it. Come on now.
I don't need you doubling down.
Oh, I just meant in general, not just people that look like you. Well, it's the same thing. You kind of get the opposite, where if you get a white guy that's athletic and not a shooter, you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, what is he doing out here?
Hey, so, it's funny how it goes the other way.
Yeah.
And it's weird because Mason is here, but people used to say that about Miller.
Yeah.
Right?
Or like Alex O'Connell. Like, he was kind of a streaky shooter, but you're like, white wing, he's got to be a good shooter. He's
or how about Jason Williams?
He went from
this was the knock. Too busy dribbling and showing off. He can't shoot. I was like, oh. How the tables have turned.
My white guy can't shoot it.
Reason you dubbed him white chocolate. Knock it off. No, but watching Duke again, watching them all year. I mean, that's kind of what they do. I still worry about them.
Well, look, the first 6 minutes of that game were a really good example of that.
I'm telling you, what's going to
where
happen.
They just don't dial.
And I know you think I pull some crazy stuff out of my bunda, and then all of a sudden it comes to fruition.
Yeah.
But Duke is the kind of team, and be careful with your brackets. Duke is the kind of team that will see a team like New Mexico
and have trouble,
because New Mexico is going to be like, I would guess, an 8 or a 9, and it's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. They will they will straight get after that
bunda.
That bunda.
That's got B, not got A. Shot A. You're going to talk about Kansas and Houston.
Houston. Golly.
You're the one out here saying brothers can't shoot. I'm a Steph Curry stan.
I did not say that.
DB here for black people cannot shoot the basketball.
Why do you hate context? First of all, why do you hate me?
Because it's March 4th. It's no longer Black History Month. You had your 28 days, brother.
It's fine. It's fine. Yeah. As a guy that watches The heck you staring at? He just comes in like he wants something. Don't you work here?
Shane's just walking around.
It reminds me of the "I'm Over It" segment. But anyway, as a resident college basketball honk, nothing KU. People have these hot takes, right?
Yeah.
Number one, they turn the ball over entirely too much.
A ton.
Just
a ton.
I mean, just watching guys try to pass out of the double or these crazy half court or cross court passes or trying to skip. It's like, okay, those are just bad decisions. The other thing is they're incredibly finesse.
Yeah, they're soft. You say finesse to be nice, they're soft.
Correct.
That's a soft basketball team.
I mean, I watched those guys run and double Dickinson, and who knows where the ball's going. He's going to bounce it off his leg. He's going to throw it off somebody's forehead.
Did you see the one late where they're trying to come back?
Yeah, and he just throws it to the wing defender, and he has a run-out dunk.
Well, that one, and he threw another one that actually wasn't a turnover, but maybe was a worse decision. He just kind of threw it over his head. Like, he didn't see anybody there.
Yeah, he kind of just flung it.
He did.
Yeah,
I know. He did not see anyone
from left wing to right.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm like, what? I thought he was going to throw it out of bounds.
Yeah, so did I. I was like, there's no way he saw where he was throwing the ball. He was just mad that he got doubled and couldn't do anything.
And I'm just, they just, and this is 2 years in a row now for old Rock Chalk.
So you know what's funny about that is,
don't worry, because the whole Mount Rushmore thing.
Oh, we'll get there.
No, I don't want to anymore now.
Why?
Because I may have to pull self off.
Oh, so I was gonna say, you know what's funny about Kansas?
I think I am.
And North Carolina got all the crap about being the preseason number one and having a bad year. Kansas has done that 2 years in a row now, pretty much to the same degree.
That's what I'm saying.
Like
that's 2 years in a row now.
And I don't think it's like, listen, he's had worse rosters that have played better. Can we be real about that?
No, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Because this,
and he's not gonna, and he may in Lawrence. I don't know how Rock Chalk fans feel about. Because here the new version of 2-Gap in 2023, 2024, and 2025 is roster construction.
I don't know if you know about the roster construction, but he's responsible for the roster construction.
Oh, is he?
As have coaches for the test of time, but it's a new thing now because of player acquisition. But anywho.
Because they weren't acquiring players before.
Don't mind me.
You're like, Dabo, all of our kids are in the transfer portal. They transferred from high school to college.
Whose voice was that?
I don't know. I was trying to do a Southern accent, but it kind of I don't know what it turned into.
Shane, we need Jack to call. Hit Jack up. How's the weather in Tennessee?
I don't know. It's chillier than most people think.
I hope Jack's okay.
I hope he's all right.
Yeah, so
I think I saw him in the chat earlier.
We need to check on my man Mike in Kansas City too, as he's continuing to try to kick cancer's ass.
Oof.
I'm still rocking his bracelet. You know how many days in a row this is?
That's a lot.
It's the day we got it. I haven't taken it off.
Yeah.
And it's weird because sometimes when I roll over and I'm asleep, it will come up here.
Really?
And I can't feel my hand.
Well, that's not good.
Yeah, I just
shake it out.
Like I'm doing this.
Like T-Swizzle, shake it off.
No.
You look like a big Taylor Swift guy. More of a Chapel Roan.
Who?
Your daughter knows who that is.
So
you ever hear her sing Pink Pony Club?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what she said last night? Dead dog.
Although she's into WWE, so maybe she's not into
She came home. She wanted another walking taco. Smashed some Doritos up. Gave her the taco meat. She eats it with this little narrow behind girl. So I put a fork out on the table and she calmly pushes her chair in. Gets up. She looks at the fork. Turns her head sideways. Throws it in the dishwasher. I said, Zoe, that's a clean fork. What are you doing? She said, I'm getting a spoon. It's easier. Okay.
Cool.
Certainly not going in the dishwasher to see which one she put in there, but that aggravated me. But anyway,
yeah.
So last night she has her wireless on, and she got to stay up till like 8:35 or 40 because she has a dentist appointment this morning. And so, she's just laughing. And I look over and I said, hey, I tap. She said, pull your headphones down. I said, what's the matter? And she goes, he just gave him the Sister Abigail. That had to hurt. I said, who?
Just rocking that WWE still?
I said, who? And she's like, Uncle Tommy. I'm like, hold up. This is in my head. I'm like, who is Uncle Tommy? I said, Zoe, I said, did somebody copy Bray Wyatt's finishing move?
Mhm.
And she said, Dad, they're all in the same family.
All right, bud.
Okay.
Good talk.
Deuces.
TK says Rock Chalk Country isn't doing great, but mostly just blaming the players. I kind of
So Self is still on. Okay, I get it.
let's get to our Mount Rushmore here.
No, it's too soon. Hashtag.
When do you want to do it?
I don't know. Show seems to be pretty fluid most days.
Got my head on a swivel. That's DB. I'm Ravi. We'll have more Hurrdat Sports Live coming up next.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Live. That's DBM Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, and brought to you by our friends over at the NDOT. Going to be some dicey road conditions over the next 24 hours or so. Make sure you got those eyes focused and straight ahead. No distractions. Your job as the driver is to drive. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. What's up?
You're weird. What? There's nothing out there, so don't give me the whole sightline thing. What are you looking at?
No, I just kind of
Right.
I don't know. It's a weird thing that I do. I've tried to explain this to you.
I don't really know why, but from my whole career doing this,
yeah,
I've always sat to my co-host's left.
Yeah, like we are right now.
Yeah. I'm going to try something different.
You want to switch it up?
Do you know what I think it is? Is because most times anything that's dangerous was always closest to the door.
So you were trying.
So they put me he can't screw this up from over there. Put baby in the corner. By the way, she's still in this picture. She's still incredibly good looking.
Oh, okay.
Rashida Jones,
big Rashida Jones guy. We were talking about Parks and Rec.
Yeah, why I don't know, but
well, we were talking about why people thought black kids couldn't shoot, and I was bringing up that was a narrative. That's a real thing. That was a real thing.
I just think sometimes you're just so casual with what comes out of your mouth.
We're not allowed to say black anymore? I mean, I'll use whatever vernacular is appropriate.
Oh, I'm sorry. Carry on. We were talking about what?
African Americans? I'll use whatever you want me to.
I don't care.
Okay. So people that grew up playing on playgrounds a lot couldn't shoot the basketball. And I remember people talking about, well, it's because there's these double rims on the city hoops and stuff, so it's hard to score. You have to shoot it perfect. It's easier just to learn how to get to the rack and make layups. Mm. And we both were like, well, I always thought it was easier. And you said your barber.
My barber, he's a big double rim guy.
Is, hey, if you can shoot on a double rim, you can shoot on anything. So that was kind of my thing. I was like, yeah, I used to play.
And he was a great shooter.
I used to play at Park some growing up, and I would always take pride in the fact that I would be one of the only guys that could shoot on the double rim because if it's pure, it's pure. It doesn't. You don't touch the rim, you ain't got to worry about it.
You weren't. It's a too windy guy.
No,
it's too windy.
No, you got to adjust. Yeah, I'm gonna blow this way. Let the wind draw it back. No, it's a.
Is that a good picture?
I think that's representative.
Yeah, that's an incredible picture.
Yeah. But no, we were talking about.
I was mad when they kicked her off the office. I'm like, Pam Smam.
I actually was.
Go. It's funny. Her name was Karen because she was anything but a Karen. But
yeah.
Go with Karen.
I kind of have like an office hot take. I think it's a hot take.
What's that?
I think Pam kind of sucks.
Said no one ever.
I think Pam kind of sucks.
Really?
Yeah.
What's wrong with Pam?
Okay, so let's objectively look.
Oh Lord, you've been sitting on this?
Oh, this is a thing I've thought a lot about. I've seen The Office several times over. Like this is a show that I watched.
I even got Caleb into it.
This is a show that I've watched a lot, so I've thought about it a lot.
Look, no nail polish, no nothing. That's just natural.
It's clean.
Yeah.
So
do your thing, Rashida.
Here's my problem with Pam. All right. First of all, she's in this relationship with Roy, right? We get that Roy is not the nicest guy in the world. He doesn't seem to do any, he may not be the most considerate. It doesn't appear that he is abusive. It doesn't appear that he cheats on her. It doesn't appear that
he would get after it, though.
Yeah, he would drink too much.
Yeah.
So, listen, I'm not saying she shouldn't have got out of the relationship, but she's basically emotionally cheating on Roy for years.
Well, that happens with times. I'm not condoning.
That doesn't mean you're a good person.
Okay, but listen to me, though.
Yeah.
This is foolproof.
Yeah.
I don't care what you say.
Yeah.
I've talked about this for years.
Yeah.
It's called the time spent theory.
Okay.
People of the opposite sex cannot, nor should they, spend an inordinate amount of time around each other alone. One or the other will always, 100% of the time, develop feelings.
Okay.
Now, whether they act on it or not,
sure,
is something complete. That's a whole different discussion.
Sure.
But it always happens.
So I generally agree with that.
Always.
Here's my thing, though.
Barriers, you just get comfortable.
There's a difference between that and going out of your way. Like, she tells Jim stuff that she would never tell Roy. And maybe that's because of the conditions she believes Roy's put on their relationship or whatever. But she goes out of her way to, because it's not just about the time they spend together. That's part of it. But she goes
You're
out,
holding this against Pam?
well, so this is just the start. This is where it starts with Pam.
So much for defending self.
So this is,
We'll get into Bill's self.
We'll get there in a minute.
You ready for this?
I was. So you've got the whole emotionally cheating on Roy for years.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
For years.
Okay.
Huge problem there. Okay. Second, like she obviously knew throughout the whole situation that she liked Jim more than Roy at a certain point. That's pretty clear.
Yeah.
She waits until the week of their wedding to call it off. That's pretty messed up.
Yeah, that's tough.
That's pretty messed up.
That's tough.
Okay. That's 2 strikes on Pam. All right. Then Jim is finally happy with someone else, Karen, Rashida Jones.
My ex called off her, and she called off hers a week before.
That's a tough look, man. I'm just like, that's a tough hang.
Yeah.
Like, usually that's not the first time you've had an inkling, you know?
Oh, fair.
I'm just, you know what I mean?
A lot of facts being said right now.
Okay.
It's hard to negotiate.
So finally, Jim moves on and is happy with Karen.
Yeah.
Okay. And then all of a sudden,
kind of.
They were pretty happy.
Okay.
I think they were pretty happy if it weren't for the Pam factor. So Pam,
Well, I think it was the job thing.
So that was part of it. Yeah, when she goes to New York and the
Yes.
corporate thing.
Yeah.
I think that would have been navigable, personally. But
People always said absence makes the heart grow fonder. Absence makes the heart go find one.
so you instead of that's pretty funny. Instead of a man is as faithful as his options, a man is faithful as his proximity.
Just telling you.
So Jim's finally happy, has a nice lady in his life, and Pam's single now. Here comes Pam all of a sudden, just ruining
I
Jim's
can't believe you
relationship.
sat on this.
And then, we're not even there yet. Then they finally get together, right? They finally get married. They start having kids or whatever. And Jim goes, you know what? I would love to provide a better life for our family doing something I love with this sports marketing firm that he's got going on. And she just completely loses it.
Well, she had given up her art,
Not because of Jim.
Yeah.
Jim encouraged the art. Jim was the one that was like, hey, you should go to New York. You should do these graphic design things.
David is right. I don't know what's wrong with you two, but you two are going to get on my nerves. Because I like David first. Now this is just getting out of control.
What'd he say?
It's like Tony. TG was my guy way before. We're talking Plattsmouth football for years. You come along. And it's like these dudes, they're like your Aaron. They know you just get murdered in these arguments. And they're like, man, I'm riding with Ravi. He's not a good dude. Don't ride with Ravi.
Listen, me and T-Bo's have a great time.
Him too.
That's true. I like T-Bo. Ryan.
Him too.
Danny.
Him too. Maybe it's me.
I was going to say, there seems to be a common denominator here. And I don't really.
I did not know. So maybe it's not a hot take.
I'm just saying.
I mean, Pam is fine.
Then you got the whole thing just with the sports marketing, and
Yeah,
she makes him come back, work for this dead end job at Dunder Mifflin, and I'm just saying.
I can't believe you went on that diatribe. We were supposed to start
And
about
she
Bill's self.
Finally comes around at the end, and we're supposed to just man. You're probably not a Harry Potter guy, but it's like Snape. Like Snape is an a-hole the entire.
What is wrong with you?
He's an a-hole the entire series, and then he does one good thing at the end, and we're supposed to be like, "Oh, we love Snape." No, he did one good thing. That does not reverse a lifetime of being a bad person. Anyway, so it's weird to me that Bill Self doesn't
come out on Darth Vader. He did one good thing.
Yeah,
and he murdered women and kids.
He did. It's weird that he gets a Force ghost.
The ability to destroy a planet is insignificant.
Dude, you are wild.
It's weird that he just gets to chill with Obi-Wan.
I can't even believe this is all in there.
And Yoda and Qui-Gon Jinn. When it's like, you think the kids that he murked are like their first ghosts are like, what's he doing
I can't
here?
decide whether you're incredibly cool or I may have misjudged you more than anybody I've ever come across in 51 years. I am mortified right now.
Why?
I think something's wrong with you.
Oh, there probably is. Yeah, I can't really deny that.
Like, what are we doing?
I don't know. Got me on this whole Pam thing. I have strong feelings about it.
That's called BCD. No blaming, complaining, or deflecting. I did not get you on anything.
I mean,
I said Rashida Jones was good looking. That's it.
I agree.
And you brought up Parks and Rec because you said black people can't shoot on double rims.
You said black.
No, I didn't. No, I did not.
I
said I grew up thinking that.
And then I was telling you an anecdote about how I was told stories growing up about that's why black people couldn't shoot because they were always shooting on double rims. Like no black person's ever shot inside before. And I don't think that's accurate. They got gyms in the hood too. Like boys in the hood. Your favorite Morgan Freeman.
It's called gentrification. They give us new hoops, a couple chain links, and we're call it good.
Man, I hated the chain nets though. Doesn't sound right.
Oh, it sounds great.
Nah.
Hey, do you know who it seems to have very tight rims?
Who?
You listen to the misses at the DeVanney or at PBA.
Yeah. Not great.
It sounds weird.
Yeah. You know, there's a story about Michael Jordan when they opened the United Center that he would go in there after he came back from baseball. He'd go in there and he'd shoot the ball as high as he could to land right on the front rim, trying to loosen them up because he thought they were too tight. That's a real story.
I believe it.
Because he's a psycho like that.
And to think that this all stemmed from you thinking Bill Self gets a mulligan.
Yeah, so we might have to circle. Might have to circle back around on that.
This is, again, 2 years in a row, though.
Mm-hmm.
But this team just isn't very tough.
They're not, but they are talented.
In some spots, yeah.
Like they're more talented than they're showing right now.
And they actually hit some tough shots. Like they played against a team last night that really gets after you.
I would argue they only hit tough shots, though. They don't get a lot of easy shots.
Well, even when they do, they get too cute around the rim. Sometimes you just have to take one and get fouled.
Yeah. There's a lot of guys that don't want to get fouled.
And I think Houston is a team that feeds on that.
Mm.
Like they feed on, like if they feel like they can intimidate you and kind of bully you, like that's what they do. But they hit a ton of tough shots.
Yeah.
No, Houston.
Yeah, no, I know. That's part of the thing I struggle with.
I'm telling you.
Because their offensive rating is way better than it has been in years past.
And we'll get to it, I'm sure, but in this next segment. I think you may have to be careful about preconceived notions filling out this bracket this year. I get it. We're going to use data and we're going to plug and play, and some of it is very lock stock, right? Especially offensive and defensive efficiency.
Yeah.
There's going to be a few trim buckers this year.
We will get into that, and we'll probably set up the show coming up next year on Hurrdat Sports Live.
We will be back. will be back.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Live. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. Just give me a little teaser here. Coming up later this week, make sure you're listening because we're going to give away 4 tickets to the Omaha Guns and Hoses fundraiser. That is, I know it used to be a boxing event. It's a hockey. That's Guns N' Roses. It's different than Guns and Hoses.
I don't need to hear from you.
Which is a fundraiser for first responders here in Omaha. It's a hockey game that will be this Sunday afternoon over at Baxter Arena. We'll be giving away 4 tickets later this week. Just keep an eye out for those, or make sure you go and get your own tickets. If you don't want to wait around, you want to just get them, make sure you get over
God bless hockey.
Get Omaha Guns and Hoses tickets to support first responders.
By the way, Shane, you may be close to getting Landeskog back.
That's not a bad thing. I've seen rumors of that for like the last couple months, though.
Well, it's been 2 years.
I know, but it's been ramping up.
It's like me waiting on Chris Sale out here just any day now, bud.
Well, you had a good offseason. Stop whining.
No, I'm excited. I saw Walker Buehler on Sunday for 2 glorious innings. I felt good about it.
He's fantastic if he's healthy.
He is.
Make no mistake about it.
He's only 30. Like, that's a nice pickup.
And he's got the efficient delivery, and he hasn't been overused because he's missed time.
Yeah.
So
there's a chance.
He's kind of like Crawford.
There's a chance.
Fresh 33, 34.
Yeah.
By the way, him and Tank going at it is hilarious.
Yeah. Well, because Tank wanted him, didn't he?
No, Tank went there, and Bud almost never does.
Yeah.
But he went to the family.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
He usually avoids that because he doesn't like it when people do it.
And Bud put it on his IG story.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, man, if I see you on site, like, I will break your neck.
Mm.
And that's like the old Bud.
Yeah.
He usually can put up with a lot, but when you start talking about mom and kids, it's probably it's probably a problem for old.
He's going to stand on business.
TC. Yeah, but anyway, Tank has no – I'm not going to distract you with boxing, but that thing was bogus. Roach won that fight.
Yeah.
And I'll leave it at that.
Let's get back into KU and Bill Self here in a second, but coming up on the show, we're going to talk to Matt DeMarinis here at 8 o'clock.
We're going to ask Matty D, too. D, I like talking to Matty D because
he's got range.
Yeah, I can talk about I want to talk about college basketball in general.
Yeah. He's versatile. He watches a ton of stuff. We're group texting with him every night, basically watching games. And then the other guy in that group chat, Jacob Padilla, will join us at 8:40, 45-ish, whatever time he wakes up.
I don't even know why I said 8:40, but I'm trying to get myself out of the habit of talking about our old times.
Yeah.
In a couple of weeks, we're just going to do what we want.
Yeah.
So I said 8:40-ish.
As opposed to now where we are very buttoned up.
Shut up, Shane.
At 9, we're going to talk to our guy,
You guys are pretty buttoned up.
Mike Schaefer from Husker 20.
I'm buttoning him up, all right.
No, I thought you were going to zip me up and then beat me a little bit.
I just think of Kenny off of South Park.
You bastards.
Oh, my God, he killed Ravi.
It's going to be the new bit. DB, what are you doing?
Nothing.
So I do want to go get this this Bill Self thing a little bit because I do think it's a super interesting dynamic. We were talking about it in the first segment and then kind of came back to it a little bit before you distracted me in the second segment.
Yeah, that's what I did.
That's definitely what happened. Is this idea that Kansas fans are disappointed with the team, but mostly place the blame on the team itself and not Bill Self. It almost seems like Bill Self has raised himself, no pun intended, to this point where he's above reproach with the fan base, at least at this point. And that's pretty strange to me because almost no coach gets that level of benefit of the doubt.
Well, he was the first one to get a lifetime contract.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's fair. And maybe that's a accurate representation of how the fan base feels about him, not just the administration. But it is weird to me. I did think Game Dog brought up a couple good points here when we were talking about like the talent of a team versus what we see with Kansas. Because I brought up that they don't get a lot of easy shots. And I think that's true. He says teams that are mega talented get easy shots. The experts that rank the stars were off on this KU team.
Yeah, but
I don't know that that's right because it wasn't.
First of all, it's too hard to prove. It's an opinion, so that's fine. But it's like almost nobody else gets that benefit of the doubt because when we're talking about other sports, and I'm going to say this and move on because that supposition is fine. But we're real selective when we use it.
Sure.
When other guys come out, or let's just use, for example, Thomas Fidone.
Okay.
4 or 5 star, we feel a certain way. At no point, none. Haven't heard anybody say it. None. Did we say, you know what? Maybe he was overvalued coming out of high school when we look at his career and we think, he just didn't meet expectations. We don't do that with football. I see it all the time with offensive linemen. Bo went through this stretch where
he got a few good classes,
and those guys just weren't panning out, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
a lot of 4 stars that just didn't.
I'm like, you know what? And I was accused of being an apologist. I'm like, sometimes, especially with offensive linemen, it's a very difficult position to rank
because you're projecting
in high school.
Yeah,
it's hard. So maybe the rankings are off. And I mean, these scouting services, and that's what they get paid to do. So sure, I'll listen to that in basketball. It's just convenient when we like to use it because we don't do that in other sports.
I also think if you're going to talk about it that way, where hey, this team isn't performing up to expectations, then you can't go backwards. Because when you brought up the Fidone example, I thought you were going to go the other way. Is instead of saying, oh, maybe he was overrated, we go like, oh, he was a disappointment because he didn't live up to his expectations.
No, that's
right?
part of
that's part of the whole thing.
That's part of the whole when we want to rationalize people's performances.
So we kind of have to we can't really talk out of both sides of our mouth when we're talking about overrated.
And that's my point.
Yeah.
That's my point.
You have to be consistent with, and here's the other thing. So with Kansas specifically, I don't know if it's right because a lot of these guys are transfers and performed at a different place, right? So there is a track record. Like Dickinson performed at a high level at a high major. So it's really hard to say, well, oh, he was overrated by the experts. It's like, well, he had the track record. Like he has done this before.
100%.
Right? If you want to say, hey, maybe Zeke Mayo's having a harder time transitioning from, but he has a track record of production. Right.
And he played well against Power 6 conferences, even where he had come from.
Right.
So, okay, maybe you're going to talk about the grind or the night in, night out stuff.
But that to me isn't really an expert overrating. It's just, hey, like, because it's one thing going high school to college. It's a different thing going college to college, right? So that's where I would push back on that a little bit. But I do think it's super odd that we talk about Bill Self in this way, because I asked you this question. We don't have to get into it right now, but I asked you this question about who is on the Mount Rushmore of college basketball coaches. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like you had Bill Self in there.
Bill Self, I would have made a case.
And I think you can make that case, right? But I do think it's really hard because you look at he's like, okay, he's only got 2 national titles. He's been most of his success is at one place, although he was good at Illinois too, and he's got the way up. Like we look at Bill Self in a way that he shouldn't have teams like this, right? If he is who we kind of talk about him being, having this level of talent and have it match up with this type of result, like I don't
like. For instance,
that's hard for me.
For instance, ready? I'll give you 2 guys, same 5 guys they're coaching.
Okay.
Answer as fast as you can.
Okay.
Same 5 guys. Let's just say they're all 7s, they're all 10s, they're all 4s, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You have to win the game.
Okay. Just one game.
One game.
Okay.
Dean Smith, Bill Self.
Bill Self.
Okay. Me too. Dean Smith's going to make most people's Mount Rushmores. So I only do that.
I agree. Yeah, I understand.
I only do that so we can glean some perspective. So we're talking about from the same frame of reference.
Sure.
But when I look at this Kansas team, again, I'm sure there's fans that watch them more than me. But the difference between me and fans is I'm just I'm going to be super objective. You know, I don't care one way or the other. I'm just talking about what I see.
Yeah, you're not invested.
Certainly not emotionally.
Yeah.
Right? It's like watching a fight with no volume. It's not a talent issue.
No, I don't think so.
It's not. What's ailing Kansas isn't that the players aren't good enough.
Yeah.
So when that's the first thing I hear about them being overvalued or miss whatever, when I watch them play, it's not because they don't have good enough players.
Yeah.
It's because of the way they play.
Yeah. Because there's a difference between not having good enough players and not playing good enough. Like there's a big difference there.
When BYU ran them off the court in front of the Rock, that wasn't about talent.
No.
Even though BYU has really good players.
You think Kansas is more talented than Creighton?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Agree. Like not. Yeah, I don't think that's a debate.
So
we saw what happened.
That's why I just think it's weird how we're now starting with, well, are they actually really that good? They got good players.
Big difference between not being good enough and not playing good enough. Coming up next, we're going to talk to our friend Matt DeMarinis from the White and Blue Review.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back.
Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Live.
Shane Thomas playing for Pop Isaac. Now gets it into the corner. Wide open three. Ashworth! Splashworth! Maya, shimmy shakes, looks to drive, kicks it out to Kalkbrenner, who's going to shoot the three. Yes, sir! To his left, Ashworth with 6. Ashworth has to force up a 3. Yes, sir!
Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We are joined now by our dear friend, Matt DeMarinis from the White and Blue Review. What's up, Matty?
My guys, how we doing?
Good. Does it sound? It sounds so cute when he says our dear friend. Ravi's been on for about 2-3 weeks now, but he continues to outdo himself, as you're very well aware of.
Yeah, he was trying to soften me up. Shane hit me up yesterday, and I was like, "Hey, you want to come out on an 8?" And I really didn't want to. I was like, "It's a game night, man. I don't gotta get up early on a game night. I gotta be up late all night." You know what I mean?
He said, "I really didn't want to." You don't have any problem saying how you really feel, though. That's
no, never. You got me on, so I was like, "Can I say that? Can I drop f-bombs? Because you're not on radio."
So Shane,
like, yes. He's like, "Yeah,
he
you
goes,
can."
Well, he goes, does Matt cuss a lot? And Ravi's like, "No, I mean, not too much. He's not like Furs or Sauter." The very first or second thing you say is,
"Can I drop some f-bombs?
Can I drop an f-bomb?"
That's how he got me on. That was the convincer.
You can do whatever you want, but if it means anything to you, Jacob said the very same thing. He goes, "Hey, instead of just blowing through it all night for the pod tomorrow, I'll just get up early since I'm going to be on with you guys. So maybe you can look at it as kind of glass half full." Although you're probably already prepared.
Yeah, no. I mean, you think you are, and then you watch the game and it changes your mind. So yeah, but I'm ready.
Let me ask you something, because I think you can be objective too. As a non-KU fan, we're into this, and we're going to get into this Mount Rushmore thing. Ravi just wants to argue because I'm sure he's got some hot takes like Pam sucks. But although I have an equivalent, because I'm not sure I would put Wooden on my Mount Rushmore. I don't think I would. But I got it. Matt, do you want me to stay right there so you can hammer me, Matt? Because I know you're not afraid to go there.
That's a lot of winning off that thing, man.
Is that a hot take?
So
I mean, all I'm saying is if you don't put Wooden on there, you're backing yourself into a corner where you could put like any of 20 people on there.
I'm willing to entertain that.
That's fair. I think that's fair.
That's legit. Yeah,
that's real.
I
think it makes the group you're gonna put on there like really Swiss cheesy. I could poke a lot of holes. You know what I mean? Like
I could poke a lot of holes in Wooden too. I mean, if we're gonna be real,
I don't want to derail him though. Let me. He's chomping at the.
So
this is a lot like the group text. We just can't stay focused.
Yes,
we were talking about Self. Is Self on your Mount Rushmore for all-time college basketball coaches?
At least
no, I don't. Not probably not. But like, it just depends on what your parameters are. X's and O's, maybe. But.
Are you one of those guys, Matt, that would make the case he should have more than 2 national championships?
100%. I think I have made the case before. Yeah. But I also think like back when we used to argue about, Calipari, I think that my takes on Cal have aged better in those conversations, because I always thought Self did more with less than Cal did. But Cal was always kind of like, he was a top 3 at worst coach in the country for, the better part of 10 to 15 years. And I never really kind of got on board with that because of various reasons that, you guys already know. We've argued about it. So yeah, I've always held Self in high regard in terms of his acumen, because I haven't always necessarily thought he's been the best at getting the most talent in the country. You know what I mean? I always think he's been kind of behind the Dukes, the Kentuckys, the Carolinas in that regard. But I think but I've seen him also match up with those teams, in do or die scenarios where his acumen shines over K's, over, Roy's, over Cal's with lesser talent across the board. And I've always kind of respected that. So it just depends on what your parameters are. Has he won enough to be on Mount Rushmore? Probably not. But I think his acumen, his X's and O's kind of, way he sees the game and way he kind of dissects it, in game adjustments and things like that. I think he's maybe it's slipping a little bit, but in his prime, for sure he was at the top of the game.
Let me ask you something. Are you surprised or a little taken aback that the last year or two, let's go 2, that the discussion has not been about whether so. He doesn't get the criticism, and I'm not sure whether he should or not, but he hasn't gotten the criticism that we hear some other coaches get when it comes to roster construction. Or but that's like the buzzword, right? Oh, man, I mean, we heard it with Mac. We hear it with Hoiberg. But this team, it was, well, I tell you, I mean, maybe we just misdiagnosed the talent level. And I'm like, no, we didn't. Like, when you watch Kansas play, and this isn't an indictment of Bill Self, because like I said, I'm tempted to put him on Mount Rushmore. I'm saying it's convenient that we misvalued the players. When I watch Kansas play and I watch them lose, or they fumble the basketball, or Dickinson doesn't look like he cares about the results, or Store shot selection is brutal, or whatever. It's not because I don't think the guys aren't good enough. They don't play in a way that gives themselves a chance to win. So I'm trying to draw that distinction, if you know what I mean.
No,
it's when you watched Houston last night. Were you thinking, man, Houston's got they've got better players? No, they look like they played harder.
I actually thought Kansas played harder in some stages of the game.
If you were going to name the top 5 players on the floor last night,
yeah,
how they played, is it 3-2 KU to Houston, or 3-2 Houston to KU?
Yeah, probably that way. I think maybe even 4-1. Here's my thing. Because I think you asked a larger question before that one. I think a lot of the narrative around Kansas right now is there are a lot of people nationally that are trying to rationalize why they missed so badly on their evaluation of them preseason-wise. Because coming into the year, based on who they acquired in the portal, it was a clear-cut number 1 preseason team. Like, this was the team that was going to have the most potent lineup they could throw at you. And I think Zeke Mayo is a great player. Certainly, Creighton was after him. He would have been a nice fit. Like, I'm not trying to knock him, but when you're telling, like, they acquired, Zeke Mayo and AJ Store were their 2 big acquisitions in the offseason, and that was what was going to kind of take them from a team that got absolutely cracked over the head by Gonzaga in the NCAA tournament last year. That was the team that was going to – those were the players that were going to, fill the holes and take Kansas to, the Final Four and potentially a national championship based on what all the national pundits were saying. And I'm just like – I was thinking, well, first of all, Zeke Mayo is transferring up from the Summit League where you basically can cook whoever you want. You know what I mean? We know that about the Summit League, right? Like, it's just like if you got skills,
offensive.
Yeah, like I mean, it's just a free flowing league. Like, you can just if you got skills, you can thrive. But he's transferring up now to what has been the best basketball league in the country for a few years before the SEC blew up this year, right? And then you have AJ Store, who has always been a roller coaster ride everywhere he's been, up and down. The reason people think he's like the dude is because he can drop 30, but they forget the times where he can drop 3. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like it was a really weird evaluation. But then they came out of the gate and they kind of proved it, right? They beat Duke. They beat Michigan State. They kind of just started out being that team that everybody kind of thought they should be. Then they went to Omaha, then they went to Missouri and got, humbled a little bit. And then certainly Big 12 play has knocked them down even further, a few rungs even further. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, I think right now what's happening with the conversation around KU is a lot of national pundits trying to rationalize why they maybe didn't see some of the challenges that, the Mayo acquisition and the Store acquisition would present to Kansas, especially on the offensive end of the floor.
So I'm curious. I want to go back to this effort thing, and I don't want this to be the sticking point. But when you're 2-1 in live ball turnovers, which KU, when you cannot throw the ball out of a double, when you give up 13 more offensive rebounds, which Houston had 13 more offensive rebounds. What makes you think that KU played harder?
I mean, that they were in the game. I
mean,
guess.
my man Hunter Dickinson was flinging balls out of the double on a skip pass, and Houston was still closing out for contested threes. Like how?
Well, that goes back to your point about like I thought that goes back to the second part of your point. There was that Houston has the better players on the floor. So I thought the only reason the game.
You take Cryer over Mayo?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, like that's.
I'm just going through it in my head. I'm just going through it in my head.
Yeah.
What about Adams Jr.?
I'm just
indifferent.
Not indifferent, but I'm just like there's nothing game changing there. I don't think.
What about Dickinson?
He's capable. Like we know maybe not the way he was 2 years ago in the Big Ten, but
who before this season, who went on Houston's team would you have taken over Store?
Cryer, 100%.
Okay. So one.
Yeah.
I'm
Roberts. Like, yeah. I'm not a Store. I've never been. I always know.
Me neither.
Because I saw him in the Big East, and I watched him kind of in the Big Ten. I know.
I'm talking about prowess. Like not.
But I like consistency. You know what I'm saying? I don't like hot and cold. Okay. You know, I need steady Eddie. I don't want roller coaster ride because you never know what you're getting.
Is offensive rebounding, in your opinion, like when you see three ball? We're just looking at the highlights now. It's crazy. So the little putback like that Cryer got when the ball's bouncing around, are those talent things for you, or is that how hard?
No.
Okay.
No, I think those are Kelvin Sampson instilled, like go get the damn thing type of plays. You know what I mean? Like go make the play. Like he instills that, you know, that hungry junkyard dog mentality into players that even if they don't have it, like LJ Cryer, I don't think he was that dude at Baylor. But I think
he used to just be a shooter.
Yes.
Now he's like a tough shot maker.
100%. Yeah. Like I think Sampson is one of those guys who you could also talk about as a coach who gets way more out of less, you know, across, you know, his tenure of coaching. Because I don't think anyone would ever argue that he's a Mount Rushmore coach of his era because again there's no national championship there. But he's also had now multiple programs where he's put in position to win national championships because of the way he can kind of bring a group, whatever it's comprised of talent-wise, together and make it, you know, kind of maximize it. So it just depends on what your parameters are, you know, because I think Sampson is in that same class of coaches with Self in terms of, you know, maybe they don't always have the best dudes on the floor, the best five on the floor, but you're going to have a hard time putting them away. He's one of those guys that could take yours and beat you. You know, he could beat you with his or yours. You know what I mean? That's the kind of coach he is.
So, Matt, as we kind of shift gears here over to, we'll spend a couple minutes on Creighton.
We got plenty of time.
What? I mean,
this might be our own hour pod.
Let's go.
We got you up, right?
I mean,
yeah, I was going to say, you woke me up. Let's do it.
Okay, I do want to stick on this Mount Rushmore thing for a second then, because
who's on yours? You don't even tell me who's on yours. I don't know where you're starting from. You know what I mean?
Like
is
scrapping my list right now.
Like, are you putting Cal on there? Ravi?
No, I'm not putting Calipari on. Listen, I get painted in this corner as this Cal apologist just because I don't think he sucks as much as you do. That's it. Like, that's my argument.
Well, I don't think it was sucks. I think it was just like overrated, like to the era.
Maybe he's overrated to the era, but he gets this reputation of being this trash basketball coach. And I'm not saying from you necessarily, but sort of in general, people are like, oh, Cal. He kind of just gets waved off. He's been really successful at a ton of places for a long time. And one of the biggest parts of the job is player acquisition and always has been. And he's been better at that than almost everyone.
What happened when the acquisition how do I want to phrase this? What happened when the ways to acquire talent all of a sudden became less stringent across the country?
It made it easier for everyone, but
so that's my only real argument against Wooden. He was way ahead of the game in terms of player acquisitions with what
100%
at UCLA
in terms of the bag man.
Yeah.
Yes.
Way ahead of the game.
And
documented.
Let's be honest.
I can't ignore that.
Like, let's be honest.
I'm with you on there, because if you're gonna say that's the reason, then then Cal almost is completely disqualified, because Wooden did it and won. Cal did it and did not.
Didn't win.
Yeah, Cal wouldn't be on my Mount Rushmore. That's kind of my point. I think he gets too much hate. Like, it's the pendulum has shifted the other way on Cal, so that's where I push back. My issue with Wooden is very similar to DB's. Prior to Sam Gilbert's involvement in the mid-'60s, my man has 0 natties. Goose egg. Yeah. And then he goes, and people are getting whatever they need to come to UCLA, and all of a sudden he wins all these national championships, right?
No, that's fair.
And
it's well documented. I mean, that's not even like
that's not speculation.
If that's your reasoning, I'm with you. I'm just saying,
that's part of my reasoning.
Yeah, it has to be if that's a disqualifier, it also applies to many others. You know,
I agree. I also think like era dependent sort of matters here, because even if he was a great coach and doing everything, because college basketball in general, like, not everybody was pouring the resources into college basketball in the 60s that they are now. Nobody's ripping off 10 out of 12, even if you have the same equivalent talent dispersion, right? Like, that's just not happening again. So it's not that I don't count them. It's just you have to take it with a grain of salt. It's sort of like the Celtics 11 and 13. Like, there were like 12 teams in the league. Like, it's a different thing. It's not saying they don't count. You just have to.
I mean, Hurley just went back to back with different cores, bro. Like,
okay, what does that have to do with Wooden? Like, I'm not.
Well, it has to do with, like, you're basically arguing that, like, no one's ripping off natties plural, like, in succession.
No, I said nobody's going
with plug and play. With plug and play.
I said nobody's going that stretch that UCLA had ever again, regardless of talent. Like, that's part of the era part. Even if you had the equivalent talent, the era dictates that's never happening again. Right? Okay. There's a very specific point in time where the Celtics can go 11 of 13, or that UCLA can go 10 of 12. And that period of time doesn't exist anymore, because everybody else cares so much more about trying to win in college basketball or the NBA or whatever, right? Like, the era defines part of that level of success. And I do
dynasties in college are probably dead.
Yeah, like, I have to take that in
every sport. Yeah.
I have to take that with the context of this argument. Then you put in the Sam Gilbert context as well, and I go, okay. And here's the other thing with Wooden. And kind of in general, one of the things I care about the most, because I think it makes it most impressive to me, is being able to replicate that success at multiple spots. That's one of my main criteria.
Yeah.
Like, that matters a lot to me. And listen, like, a Coach K gets a pass because it was so long over such a period of time for me, and he did it over multiple eras and did it kind of in multiple ways.
It was also at Duke.
No, it's a great place to be. I get that. Right?
No, it's not. But I mean, it's only a great place to be.
He made it a great place.
That's what I'm saying.
That's why he's on.
Okay,
he's my only lock.
Yeah, he's the only one that I have no questions about.
If you've been to Durham, like, it's Duke. You know what I'm saying? Like, you think of Duke now as like the place. Like, he made it the place.
He's my only lock.
He's also my only lock. He's the guy that I have zero questions about. But I really value, like, a guy that I don't think a lot of people love in terms of this conversation is probably Roy Williams. But he was highly successful at Kansas. He was highly successful at North Carolina. He's one of only a handful of guys with at least 3 national titles. Like, Roy Williams is definitely in the discussion for me, even though I don't know that people give him his due as one of those guys.
Let me ask you something.
I think it's K, Roy, Patino, and I think the fourth guy we can fight till 15 rounds
on mine as well.
So as much as I hate Patino, he's on mine because of that thing, the way he's done it across multiple stops. High major, low major, mid major, everywhere in between. He's got the multiple natties. Like, Patino has to be on my list, even if I don't love the guy.
So,
for sure,
Matt, I'm going to get off the Rushmore because I want to talk greater college basketball.
Yeah.
But let me ask you something real quick. Answer as fast as you can.
I'll say this right now: if you ask a Nebraska question before a Creighton question, I am cussing. That's
no,
all I'm saying.
I'm not. Although my next question does have to do with roster management, but I'll use both Mac and Hoiberg as examples.
All right.
At the same time. So real quick, fast as you can. Same players across the board. Same 5 guys.
Mm-hmm.
Roy or Dean?
Roy.
Hmm.
Roy.
I think
I always loved Roy's. I always loved the way I knew what I was getting out of Roy's teams, no matter who he was coaching. Period.
So the hard thing for me is,
I knew I was getting 60 rebounds, 60 to I think it was getting 60 to 30 on the glass. I knew they were going to run.
The hard thing for me is Dean should have won more national championships, in my opinion.
I agree. He's a guy that didn't do enough.
But I
with what he
can't.
had.
But if I say that, I have a hard time laying my head down at night thinking Roy shouldn't have won more at Kansas either.
Fair. That's fair.
Yeah. That's
probably
fair.
Fair.
Right. You're not wrong about that. I think Kansas. I don't. If you were to stack them together though, who had more all-timers? Like dudes. I think it's Dean, not even close.
100%.
Yeah. You know what's funny? Can I say that and also say that in a game, I maybe take Dean?
But I would say though, I'll push back on that a little as the resident Carolina honk.
Mm-hmm.
But also, know way more about Kansas. But Roy probably had more high-end talent.
You think so? At Carolina?
Listen. So here's the 4 guys you remember from the Dean Smith era. Okay? Jordan, Perkins, Whtie, Jimmy Black.
Vince Carter, Rasheed Wallace.
No. Well, so Vince was 98 or 97, 98. That was a little later. So you got to get.
He was still Jerry Stackhouse.
You got to get into so are you counting Guthridge or no? Because
aren't they tied together though? Isn't that the same thing?
You're kind of missing the stopgap.
Am I? I didn't think there was one though. I thought that was the only reason Guthridge survived as long as he did. Am I wrong about that?
I'm not. No criticism from me. No. But then you're getting into the Brandon Wrights.
We're following. You're following. I see where you're going.
Rashad McCants, Forte,
Yeah.
Rasheed Wallace. Not Rasheed Wallace. Tyler Hansbrough.
But Roy went with those dudes though.
But listen, you're getting into when you talk high end talent, Ed Davis. You know how many guys left Carolina between 2000 and 2019 that probably Wayne Elling. These guys were they're pros, Maddie. Pros.
Yeah.
So
you're telling me Roy's all-timers versus Dean's all-timers. You're not.
I think if you take Jordan out of it, I would take Roy. I'm telling you.
Ooh.
Listen,
I don't know.
Listen, Brandon Wright in college would
really
give Rasheed Wallace all he wanted. And let's not act. No, hey, Maddie, I'm telling you, this is in my wheelhouse.
I was a big John Henson guy.
I hear you. I'm not knocking it.
Henson was incredible. Vince Carter was not great in college. He was good.
Jameson was unbelievable, though.
Jameson was great.
Jameson was unbelievable.
Antoine.
Carter.
So, we say Vince.
Vince, Stackhouse,
Carter and
bro.
Hey, Stack was a dude.
Carter and
Stack
Antoine,
was nasty.
I'm just saying, I think we're going to do this because
Eric Montross,
we're going to do this because that dude is hot garbage.
He wasn't hot garbage in college, though.
Yes, he was.
You think he was? Are you sure?
We were sleeping on Brad Doherty.
The Fab Five would cuss him out if they heard his name again. He wasn't that bad.
But the argument is weird though, because I promise we're going to get to global college basketball. But let's just take one for instance, nostalgia. Just nostalgia, right? So
this is my favorite segment I've ever done with you guys. I love this. This is just so random. You're basically just bouncing all your hot takes off of me and seeing where I'm landing. Just keep score. I love it. I love it.
All right, fine. I'm going to go.
No, keep rolling. Let's go.
Let me. So why do you think some coaches get the blame or the criticism of roster construction over others? That's the new buzzword.
Because that's kind of where we started.
Even though we act like roster construction hasn't been a thing historically anyway. Why now is that the convenient argument?
I just think it's I just think because we're talking about college in the same way we talk about pros now. And the GMs are the head coaches. Because they don't actually have GMs yet. They're starting to hire them. Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, the ones that have fallen behind are like, crap, I need to hire a GM because this is hard for me. The ones that want to stick around and still make their millies. But like that's the reason, because now there's no, like talent development all of a sudden goes out the window a little bit because like, oh, you can just go buy a team every April, May, and June, and then roll the ball out and,
kind of a miss
and let it rip.
For the majority of college sports, though, we talk like we do that, but I don't know.
I think that's what's happening.
Who's it working?
I think a lot of the talking heads, basically the way they talk about the game now is they talk about the game in terms of like all these head coaches are now basically coach/GMs. They're like and basically the type of roster you put together year to year to year is how you're judged, less so than how you can coach a team up. You know what I mean? Which is funny because, like that's not the way we talk about like Mac or Hoiberg, honestly. Like. Or any of the coaches.
Unless we want to criticize, because
for sure,
Hoiberg, the GM, before Creighton, when the whole Pop Isaacs thing, and this isn't revisionist history, this was a thing. Well, the way that the roster's been constructed, and he's got all these fours.
Yep, Fedor. Right? Yeah, when Fedor wasn't eligible,
we didn't love the way that the roster was put together. So if we didn't, and those guys still win, like I think it should accentuate. We only use it when it's convenient, in my opinion, when we want to play.
Yeah, it's only useful as a weapon, not as necessarily as like a
right.
Oh, this is great. Look at the roster is what the roster is in good times and bad. But we only use it when we want to weaponize it for our narrative. You know what I mean?
T-shirt. That's how. So I land the plane with that because that's how the whole Kansas thing came about. I'm like, really?
Yeah, I feel you.
Like
I know why you guys were arguing about that. I get it.
It's just I just think I think it's double talk. But if there's a team this year, and I'll get you out of here on this, Matty, because this is a strong 30 minutes. If there's a team that's going to defy KenPom, right, the efficiency and the offensive efficiency and defensive efficiency statistics, we hear it every year now the last 8, 9, 10 years. If there's a team that can defy those metrics that you like in college basketball, who would it be? Is there one? Doesn't have to be.
No, I don't think there is going to be one this year. Like I think Duke metrically is legit, but I also think they haven't been tested in about a month and a half, 2 months. Auburn, Auburn's metrically legit, and I think they are legitimately legit. Like I think on a neutral floor, good luck with all that. You know what I mean? Whoever you're getting, Houston, same regard. I think Florida's really good. That's like honestly, it can get a little bit funny now. Like when you think about Michigan State, I don't think you love their offense this year, but I think you think that they might be tough to deal with.
I do.
I do.
I think you can
say the same for like.
Most people don't like them though, is because they don't have a certified go bucket.
Yes,
but I do like their versatility.
Yeah, they won't be like a sexy pick all the way through. And
I've seen Virginia win like that.
Yeah, no, it's been done. I think St. John's, when you look at them offensively, you're like, ugh, you know what I mean? How far can they really go off of just like trying to create turnovers and grab offensive rebounds? But also it's Pitino, and he's done it. So like where there's a guy like that on the sidelines, they'll find a way.
I think it's interesting you use Duke because I could see Duke playing a team like New Mexico as like a 1-8, and Duke getting all they want.
Yeah, no, I think if Duke's in a tight game, it'll be interesting because that's the one thing Duke, they're a little front runny this year. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like they're just like when they get on the gas pedal early, they can put it away. But when they have to grind through like a dogfight, a 40-minute war, we've seen some wars. You know what I mean? We've seen them lose some games that now we wonder, can they actually go 6 for 6? But I mean, there's a lot of teams that kind of have one and not the other that you could see them just getting hot and making a run like Bama did last year. You could see them just because of all the firepower they have. You could see them saying, all right, we're going to give up 90, but we're going to score 100 and that'll work.
And I think of them just outscoring teams. And I get the final scores means you outscore them, but they'd have to really play that way. Could Bama win 6 in a row in the 90s? Because they're going to give up high 80s.
And if they in Purdue?
I like Purdue more than most, but I ain't going.
But I mean, but like, you know, like teams like Wisconsin that are just like more firepower than grit, like that. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of teams out there like that. They either have grit and not firepower, or firepower not grit. Like that's why I think the tournament's going to be really kind of weird this year. Not only seeding it and not only putting teams in it, but also the way it shakes out. Just because there's not a bunch of teams out there that have the total package. You know,
these brackets,
I
have to trust a couple of guys that historically, if you want to trust Duke, it's a young coach that is not battle tested. If you want to trust the guy that hasn't gotten it done, so
Houston, same deal. Yeah,
it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, the best teams in the country are all basically like new blood in terms of your Mount Rushmore conversation that this whole segment started with.
That's our guy, Matty DeMarinis.
You never disappoint, Matty. Glad you made us.
Appreciate you guys. I don't know how we got through that whole segment. That's funny.
Next time, we're going to talk about my hot take that Pam from The Office actually kind of sucks.
Pam sucks, huh? Not Jim? It's Pam first?
Whoa! We don't have time for that today.
You don't think Jim sucks? Have you watched The Office, bro?
Dude. Like 1,200 times. That's my guy, Matty DeMarinis. Check him out at whiteandbluereview.com. We'll talk to you later, buddy.
See you guys.
More Hurrdat Sports Live coming next.
Oh,
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. be back. We will be back.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live. Now, basketball enthusiast and writer for Hurrdat Sports and Nebraska Preps, Jacob Padilla.
And he's like rolling in, and Shane goes, "Is that Jacob right there?"
Oh, that's a difficult question.
Jacob Padilla.
Yeah, I don't know how much I slept.
Jacob Padilla.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even remember if I ever dreamed.
Jacob Padilla.
I guess it might be a little different, like considering how wild it's been.
Here is Jacob Padilla.
Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Live here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. That's DBM Ravi, Lulla. We are joined now by our colleague at Hurrdat Sports, Jacob Padilla. What's going on, buddy?
Good morning, Ravi. I'm doing all right.
Hi, JP. How are things? We just had a very spirited conversation with our fourth wheel, Mr. Matt DeMarinis. So everybody's a little fired up. So hopefully you can get caught up to speed quickly with some of your clapbacks, because you may, I don't know what course this may take, but you may have to go full-fledged Jacob with the sarcasm here just to defend yourself.
Well, I'm going in blind, so I guess we'll have to react on the fly.
What could go wrong?
Yeah, what could go wrong? What could go wrong?
JP.
All right, let's get into it.
Let's start with local here, because if we do get into a larger conversation, I at least at some point want to ask about the two local teams that are still playing and playing tonight. In your opinion, I came into this saying, I'm going to start with Nebraska. I came into this last 3-game stretch saying to stay off of the bubble, they had to go 3-0. That put them in. If they did anything less than that, they would be on the bubble and the risk being at other people's mercy, with the caveat that the one could not be Minnesota. At least one of them was Minnesota. So here we are now. They've got 2 games left. In your opinion, how much work do they have left to do?
Ask him if 2-0 gets him off the bubble.
Well, I don't think it does, so I'm not even going to start there.
Jacob, do you think 2-0 gets him off the bubble?
My question is, how many do they need in the tournament to get off the bubble?
Well, I mean, it might be difficult to get entirely off the bubble unless they go on a big run. I mean, obviously, the later you get in the tournament, it's kind of complicated because the less those games seem to actually matter, but the better the chances for wins are for a team like Nebraska. But that being said, there's right smack in the middle of the bubble right now. They get 2 wins, and I think you'd feel okay unless I think the problem is potential bid stealers, and I think 2 wins gets them onto on the good side of it, just based on the strength of the Big Ten metrics and the quad 1 opportunities and all that stuff. But again, I don't think it'll get them clear of the bubble in case of bid stealers. So I think, go get these 2 wins and then don't go one and done in the tournament to feel okay about their situation going into or with all the other conference tournaments kind of going on right now. But yeah, that Minnesota loss was very damaging for their mental well-being going into the stretch.
Why I wanted Ravi to simplify it is because 90% of the brackets out there have Nebraska in. So, I mean, if you just operate on that basic piece of information, if you go 2-0, you don't have to worry about it. Everybody has you in for the most part.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I don't. One thing, the Ohio State team is a team that you're like in the exact same neighborhood with. So you hand your direct competition another loss, and the head-to-head loss there. That certainly won't hurt your standing in kind of with that team along with others there. So I guess there's a little added bonus for that game. Plus it'll be quad one game at their place. So that could get you another quad one. So you get that win that might undo some of the damage from the Minnesota game. And again, they're still kind of hanging on to the right side, if just barely. That's where I think, again, the danger for bid stealers, that's where that is, because they're on the right side of the bubble, but they're barely there. Mm-hmm. So don't mess around and kind of help yourself out there so you're not banking on 0 upsets throughout the country.
Okay, Jacob. So I, like Nebraska, want to get off of the bubble here and talk about how they're actually playing in the games, because you like what I did there. What bothers me almost as much as the Minnesota loss and how the resume is starting to shake out is how many times I look up and Nebraska's down double digits, 15, 18, 19 points. And yes, they show a great amount of resolve. DB and I have talked about this a lot. They show a great amount of resolve to be able to consistently fight their way back from that position. My question is, why do they keep finding themselves in that position in the first place against seemingly like opponents, whether it's Penn State, Northwestern, Washington, Minnesota? Like, why do they keep finding themselves there?
Yeah, I think so. We've seen the way they play defense in particular, it makes them susceptible to some games like this where teams just hit them with an avalanche. But it hasn't necessarily been that all the time recently, where teams just hit a bunch of threes against their scrambling defense. We've seen them struggle in other ways recently. Obviously, Penn State, it was a layup line to the rim. It wasn't because they were just bombing away from three. Like, they didn't stop anybody at the rim. So that certainly was somewhat troubling if you're a Nebraska fan. And then recently, I think a lot of it's been the offense too. And again, bad offense impacts you on the other end because of the opportunities it creates for the opponent and the inability to get back and get your defense set the way that you want to. So that's, I think, where they're struggling right now is the way they're shooting the ball, the way you got a lot of guys that are struggling right now individually on offense. And I think they're having a tough time putting together lineups for extended runs where you've got a lot of guys playing well and filling their roles offensively. So they've just got a lot of things that they're not necessarily clicking right now consistently. And I think a lot of that comes down to the personnel and the way guys are playing. And then sometimes just the handling of the adversity initially. That's something that Fred Hoiberg has been talking about, handling adversity ever since he got to Nebraska. And it seems to be a common theme. And we've seen them not give up, but we've seen things kind of snowball on them in a lot of different ways, and they haven't always handled it great. We have seen, like you said, we've seen them rally from some of those deficits and obviously win a game or two coming from behind or get themselves at least back into it before losing it again against Minnesota. But it's just a team that's not in a great place right now, and they've got a couple games here to try to pull themselves out of it.
I want to get to high school here in a second, Jacob, but let me close with Nebraska in this, and maybe you like the matchup with Ohio State based on what I'm getting ready to say or not. But I mean, you're coming off a game where you have a guy like Garcia, and we've seen this with Nebraska with some guy, a Queen, and they're good players, so that's part of it. But stylistically, how Nebraska likes to defend, you're coming off a game in which, Berke was minus 20 and his plus minus. Braxton Mia was minus 12 in his plus minus. And I get that plus minus isn't the end all be all, but there is kind of a formula when Nebraska struggles sometimes with how bigs play them. Can Ohio State, or does Ohio State as a team present some problems where you think that will be a factor, in your opinion?
Yeah, not really. I don't think they've got well, it's kind of a weird team to look at. I didn't get to watch the first one directly. Our friend Sauter was on that one, but that's not a team that really has, like, you've got Aaron Bradshaw, but he didn't play a whole lot against them the first time. Like, it's more of a perimeter based team, and they did hit 10 threes against Nebraska last time and still lost. So it's kind of a weird team. That is an issue though, because we've seen that all season where you got to find bigs that are playable, and that they've had a tough time finding 2 or 3 of those for stretches they've had. Andrew Morgan's been really solid for long stretches. You've had moments where Mia's brand of playing has been helpful. And then Berke's had a few where it's like, okay, there it is, but far too often you're just kind of wondering what's going on there. So that's a problem, not necessarily just matchup based, but just for the overall playing, like, level of play for the team and knowing what you're going to get out of that position and how that impacts everybody else. So I don't know Ohio State's a team that is as important, except you got to figure out what lineup works against this team and which of those guys you're going to be able to play. And it's been hard to predict who you can count on out of those guys recently.
JP, let's move over to the high school realm. Obviously, all those boys basketball districts finals wrapped up last night. Had maybe a couple surprises with the way those games played out, and maybe a little bit of hand-wringing with how those wild card points played out as well. But I mean, if you've been following along over the course of the year, I'm talking about West Side and Westview, obviously. That's kind of how those narratives have gone throughout the season with Westview, though, right? Like, it's like, yeah, they've got the gaudy record, but that's always sort of been part of the conversation this year, right?
Yeah, they haven't played they've won some big games, but I think maybe some of the OPS scheduling probably tracked them down. And in the end, it sounds like that was kind of the team they played in district semi.
You're talking about the South Sioux versus Omaha South thing?
Yeah, like that. It's seeing people smarter than me. See, I don't pay attention to all that, especially because of the way that, like, you go in thinking one thing and then it could change as we saw with these district play. I generally don't look too closely at that. I let people that are used to it and know what they're looking at handle all that stuff, and then I just go look at it afterward. But that's what it sounds like is that was what flipped it, because it was Westview was certainly ahead going in there. I mean, they had a great season. It's just wild. We talked about how from the start of the season, kind of how open this was and up in the air, and I think so. To see district upset isn't shocking. It's just the fact that as we've gone into the season, we thought things had kind of established themselves in the tiers, and then at the very end here, we get hit with this where. I mean, just look at the games that we at Hurrdat Sports chose to cover. The ones that ended up being great were not the ones we went to, just based on history. And the ones we did all ended up being teams winning handily. So, we kept us guessing. And we guessed wrong in terms of going to the right games last night. But that's what makes it fun. You never quite know what to expect.
So let me ask you something, JP, because and I think it's twofold. Number one, you got 3 Lincoln teams representing, and a heck of a district final run last night, where apparently home court didn't really seem to matter a ton. And I got 2 things right, Jacob. I've liked Papillion for whatever the reason. People called me crazy all year. And I said from about week 7, 8 that Bellevue West had the room for the most growth. I think those things both turned out to be true. Let's start with the latter two, with Papio and Bellevue West, and kind of how you saw the whole district pairing shake out.
Yeah, well, you called that Papio. Like you said, there was something about them.
It's just weird.
And,
I didn't even know it was, but yeah.
Yeah, West we found out. I mean, Will Pope's done a great job with that team, and
I just don't think you can beat them playing their style. If you let them bog and muck, like they're just hard. They're tough. They're tough.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got it. I mean, they are a different style. You've got a couple of football linemen in the middle. That guy's subbing it out for each other with Garen Maley and Bryce Vignes, and looks like Bryce had a big game, and that makes sense. Like Westview doesn't really have a big body post that they play. It's more of a kind of 5-out perimeter team, and then they've got a couple guys that have played a lot of basketball for them, and then they got a lot of young kids that are kind of figuring it out throughout the season, and so they look. I mean, obviously 47-45. It was not a pretty game on either side. I mean, Papio won, shooting 39% from the field. And with 17 turnovers. They only took 6 free throws. I honestly
struggled to inbounds the ball late and still won with the ball.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they were up 4 and then gave up a 3, and it was like, oh, it's about to get interesting. And then had the 5-second count, and then Westview wasn't able to score, and they got a free throw at the end. Papio did. So I did catch the very end of that game, but yeah, just a gritty effort again to play that way offensively and still come out with a win against a great team like Westview is all credit to the guys in that program and their fight in that game.
Jacob, did the district finals give you any clarity on who you think sort of the favorites in this class are, or did it only serve to continue to be like, I don't know?
Nope, your guess is as good as mine. Probably Papio South would be the answer. I think they've established themselves at this point. They won handily, and they've looked good down the stretch. Obviously, matchup with Westside recently went their way. I think you feel pretty good about them, and with the level that Bryson Ball is playing at, and with Levi Webb getting there, and the game against North had been a team that, okay, they're starting to figure it out, and they're looking great, and then they face Papio South on their own gym, and the Titans handle them. So, I think you feel pretty good about Papio South, and then kind of any other combination at this point. Like, we're getting Bellevue West, Miller North in the first round. It's kind of crazy. I mean, obviously those two have matched up in the final the last 5 years or 5-6 years or whatever it is. And now we get in the first round. So like that's one where who knows what's going to come out. Obviously they played right at the start of the season, and that's when Bellevue West kind of turned some heads like, oh, they might have something this season. You can see Robbie Garcia versus Derek Rollins, two guys that have had monster senior years.
That's the easy matchup. The one that I'm curious about is which one of the younger backcourts shoot it better, because we saw Major go ham last night against Millard South, and we know that Bellevue West can shoot it too. But those guards are young and inexperienced, but they had to grow up. That's a fascinating matchup.
Well, that's the cool thing about the Bellevue West and what they've accomplished. I mean, Brian Morrow's been sick, didn't play in their district semi, did get out there, didn't give them a whole lot. But then you've got Kean Melcher, the freshman, coming in and hitting 6 threes, scoring 18 points.
The pretty lefty. He can shoot that thing.
Yeah, yes, he can. 6 of 7 from 3 in a district final to send your team to state as a freshman. That's not bad. And then you had Jacob Coyer at 15. So, yeah, just the growth of all those young guys throughout. Because Garcia didn't even have a great offense. I mean, he struggled offensively. 15 points and 16 shots. He also grabbed 24 rebounds, which is kind of crazy. He's been an absolute monster on the glass all season. But, it's how those guys fit together, which of those guys are able to step up because North is quite a bit more experienced in the backcourt. With Gallatin, who's been a 3-year starter at the varsity level, and Mario Rahman, who's a senior and does kind of all the little things. And then Monster, like you mentioned, is capable certainly of changing games. So that'll be a fun matchup. But I mean, just look around and we get right away a rematch for Southwest and Westside, and the level that the Sanders twins are playing at right now is pretty crazy. And
that game got super dicey at the end too. I know Dakari and those guys were giving it to Westside's fan base, and Westside had just beat them by 40. And so, and it's interesting, right? Because they get the wild card deal over Westview. And is it careful what you ask for in getting Southwest again in the rubber match, or are you fortunate that you're on the other half of the bracket of Millard North and Papio South? They may have come out like a bandit if you get by the opener.
Yeah, I mean, 3 of 21 from 3. Like, Westside's been susceptible.
Couldn't make free throws either.
Yeah, that is also true. 16 of 33. I even missed that. My goodness. See, so that's a recipe for, I think, you coming out of that game feeling like, all right, we let one get away, and getting to see that team that, like, obviously you never need extra motivation at state, but that quick of a turnaround and against a team that just beat you in a game like that where you feel like you let one get away, Westside's going to be as locked in as they possibly can be. So, I mean, I think someone pointed out, you got all these teams have lost to the higher seeded teams have lost to the teams they face in the first round, which makes for certainly an interesting start to state.
And their level of surprise, you got 3 Lincoln teams. Maybe that's not the story, but how about one of them not being Northeast with probably the best player? Yeah.
Well, that's what I talk about, where it seemed like we had kind of figured things out. Teams had established themselves, and then here we go at the end, and kind of surprised there. And against the Northeast that beat Southeast twice in the regular season. I was there for the first one when they stole it in overtime at Southeast place. Really good job by Joey Waring and his group to get them ready for this game and to pull that out. It is kind of sad to not have a guy like Lazarick Houston at state down in Lincoln, because man, he can be fun to watch. But I mean, rivalry games in district finals always produce some interesting results. So it's unfortunate, but that's Southeast earned that. So it'll be fun to see them going at it as well.
All right, best luck or best wishes getting ready for your pod with our main man that we got up and Adam too. He's already fired up, so this should be a fantastic pod coming up.
Yeah, it'll be fun to talk about. We've got Girls State preview coming up, and then got to react to all these games like we were just talking about. I don't know, maybe we'll get into the wild card points. Maybe we won't. We'll see, because people seem to be fired up about that in my mentions.
All right, buddy.
That's our guy, Jacob Padilla.
We got to shout out our very own. Well, Nick is one of our own, but I'm torn, man. I'm happy for Alex too, Bob.
Yeah.
Getting those guys to state, man. So shout out my man Alex Ball too.
Jacob, appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you later.
All right, sounds good, guys.
Thanks, JP.
We will get to our guy Mike Schaefer from Husker 24/7 coming up next.
We will be back. be back. We will be back.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live, covering Nebraska football and recruiting for 24/7 Sports. Here is Mike J. Schaefer.
Yeah, that's a grown-ass man right there.
Mike Schaefer.
I don't know. There could be bacon involved.
Mike Schaefer.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank Brian Edwards for me.
Here is Mike Schaefer.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We are joined now by our Tuesday friend, Mike Schaefer, Husker 24/7. What's up, Schaefer?
Not a ton. How are you guys doing today?
Mike J, we are good. Just being argumentative and combative as always. A lot of hot takes. So I'm sure as a guy whose needle stays.
Give me the hottest. What's the hottest take that's happened this morning?
Sports related or non-sports related?
I'll let you pick. I can, I'm a man of the world.
You're a TV guy. So the hottest take we've heard so far, non-sports related, is that Pam, in all actuality, sucked on
From
The Office.
Yeah.
And the hottest sports take is
probably Wooden.
John Wooden should not be on basketball's Mount Rushmore.
Okay. The sports one seems pretty nuclear to me. The TV one, I think, is like a mildly warm queso.
Mildly warm queso? Okay. That sounds like a weird name for a cover band, Mildly Warm Queso.
I'd go to that cover band. What are they playing?
Mildly Warm Queso. I feel like it's late 90s, early 2000s punk rock covers. Mildly Warm Queso.
Just
Dave,
some,
I think
some
you've
Green
kind
Day. I'm in.
mastered this self-awareness thing. I know you've got, because you're smart. It's like, it's all about your delivery, right? Like, do you pay that any mind? Are you cognizant of
None. It just comes out of my mouth.
It's like my involuntary faces, DB.
Well, the first one sounds kind of nuclear. So anyway, that's just, and now we've gone. It's been a lot about basketball, college basketball, and I want to hit a couple of topics with you, but I want to stay with college basketball, especially with the big one tonight, and we just kind of been on this back and forth over when basketball and how we use the term roster construction, right? When we want to use it as like a negative and we want to hold coaches' feet to the fire, it's like, oh man, the roster construction. But, we don't use it in the same vein to like accentuate positive. And on the heels of tonight, right, with Coach Hoiberg, what have we heard about? The roster construction. When do you think that kind of started being a viable thing to kind of weaponize when we want to talk Coaching prowess.
Trying to think. It feels more apt in basketball than it does sort of in other sports. In large
so that
part
was
because
that was what was making me mad. I'm like, we don't do that in other sports.
Yeah, a lot of it is because there's only 5 players, right? So each of your 5 players has a larger burden on them, I would argue, than what also happens in other sports. Now, there is the counter to that an individual can greater influence a basketball game than he could, a football game or a baseball game or a hockey game. So there's always sort of counterbalances to that. But yeah, I mean, roster construction has become a big buzz term probably over the last couple years. I don't know that there's a pinpoint moment because it's a term used in baseball a lot in the offseason to discuss how they're setting up the year ahead, or what they have in terms of a 40-man roster to work with. So I feel like that is thrown around a fair amount, but I feel like with basketball, it has really kind of exploded in the last couple of years. And then, of course, this is a season where people were alarmed about the roster construction before the games even tipped off in November. So, which has both played out exactly as you would expect and also completely opposite as you would expect, as Nebraska has basically been a bubble team since January, which I don't think people were anticipating. And then these last few weeks, they have not been able to overcome their limited roster construction, if you will, which is what I think a lot of people were anticipating in November. So they've been a little of both worlds for me.
So, Schaefer, I'm curious about the way you think Fred Hoiberg has gone about constructing his roster, because Sam said something yesterday when we were talking to him, Sam McEwen, about his view of Fred as sort of this genius tier offensive mind, and I'm not going to push back on that really. My question is, though, it seems like he kind of goes out of his way not to put together a roster that would play offensively the way we think he wants to. How do you kind of justify those two things, where you look at the roster the last couple years where they've been pretty competitive and doesn't really feel like a Fred Hoiberg roster, but then you look at what he's probably the best at coaching, and those two things don't really seem to add up, even if you like the roster in a vacuum.
What's interesting is just last year, before the season, Hoiberg was unbelievably enthusiastic about what he had because he believed that much in Rink Mast. Like, Rink Mast was the center of everything that was going to happen in 23-24. And so using that to kind of look forward, they couldn't find, like, that wasn't a one-to-one replacement they were going to find in the transfer portal. And you have the sort of awkward thing where you're expecting him to play in 25-26. So you're really looking for kind of a one-year fit-in piece. And I think they were hoping that Andrew Morgan could be not Rink Mast, but sort of Rink Mast light. I think they were hoping for a better outside game from Andrew Morgan, that he could do some of those things. You'd have him for a year. You pair that up with one of those other guys in Burke or Mia, and you have a pretty good front court, and you rotate the third person in and through. And I don't think that has played out as he wants. This year, they've certainly gone harder for a traditional point guard than he has since he's had Cam Mack. And in a strange way, it's kind of just completely blown up in his face. I mean, you're at the end of the game on Saturday, and Raleigh Wooster checks in for like the first time since the 16-minute mark with 20-some seconds left for the press. They weren't playing their point guards at the end of the game against Minnesota. They've reached a point where Raleigh Wooster and Ulis have been such net negatives at points in February, you can't even play him. So he went in a slightly different direction, it felt like, for 24-25, and his gambles did not work. And finding a point guard has been an issue for Nebraska really since Cam Mack, in that they just haven't been able to zero in what they want. You had Sam Greitzel, where that was a point forward. You had Rink Mast, where he basically was point center for them. You had Delano Banton, who was a point forward. They tried the Verge experience, where they didn't have a point guard and they had multiple guards. Trey McGowan's was never really a point guard, but he could play it a little bit for him. So I just feel like he hasn't settled on who he wants to be the primary ball operator, because I think he wants all of those guys to be able to sort of do it in fits and starts. And I think he had a unicorn in Rink Mass last year, and it made everything else easier. And they really could use a guy like that right now. I mean, one, for his consistency in scoring, but two, I just don't think they were able to replace that. And he has pieces in Bryce and Jawan and everything else, but it just feels like a very incomplete team this year, or has at times. And I don't know that there's an easy answer as to how we got there, other than I think he's still tinkering with what he wants it all to look like. But I don't think he plans to play like it was Iowa State. I think the Big Ten has made him look at things differently and construct differently.
Schaefer, 95% of the brackets out there composite have Nebraska in, right, if they handle their business. And I'm not saying that, just go out and win as though it's easy, but I'm saying, why do you think there's such the hand-wringing and consternation if Nebraska can still control their own destiny, if you believe the bracketologists out there?
It's a vibe thing. I mean, they lost 4 out of their last 5. They had a 6-game losing streak at one point. Last year, they were unbelievable at home, and this year they've given away.
Though, right? But
yeah,
still in
I think people are struggling with several things here. They're struggling with the bubble is really soft. They're struggling with the fact that Nebraska's metrics are terrific, and they're not doing the thing they need to do to just get themselves in, which is win a couple games. I think there is I don't know what word I want to use, but in Nebraska sports right now, when things aren't going well, it's just jumping to the worst conclusions. When Nebraska started losing games after winning to get to 5-1, where was everyone going? Nebraska's going to go 5-7 again. They did this in November the year before. When baseball starts off slow and it doesn't go well, the expectation around here is that it's going to continue to not go well. I mean, this is a place where the vibes for men's sports haven't been very good lately. And I think like that just plays into it. And so even though there is more than just a modicum of hope, the fact that Nebraska has lost 4 out of their last 5 games, they held Michigan to 49 points, but couldn't stop Brennan Rigsby of Minnesota when it mattered. So it's just, it feels like there's not a reason for people to collectively buy in. And so if they go beat Ohio State tonight, that'll absolutely bring people back to the forefront. I think that fans are just tired of getting their hopes up and then having them dashed as they've experienced so often. So it's a defense mechanism. Just, tell yourself that it's not going to happen anyways, and then you can't be as upset about it.
So, Schaefer, I keep looking at, you talk about their metrics, and DB talks about how 90% of the brackets have them in, and they do. I keep coming back to this thing that I've been looking at for the last couple of days, and it's that Nebraska is the only power conference team, even on the bubble, that has multiple quad 3 or 4 losses. The only one. And I keep coming back to this as Nebraska's not a brand name program. I know the committee says that doesn't matter, but it does. They've got this blight on their resume with the quad 3-4 losses. And they've lost 10 of their last 15 games. They're not exactly coming in here on a heater. I just keep looking at it as, okay, even if the metrics tell me that they could be in, even if the brackets tell me they could be in, this feels like the team that pundits have in and that the committee swerves on. Like, I don't know if that's just an insecurity thing. I don't know if that's a me thing, but I look at this and I just go, this doesn't feel like a team that the committee's going to like.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. It's not like they're covering themselves in glory down the home stretch here. So if they don't win these games, it's a moot point. If they do win these games and they still come up short in the end, you have no shortage of opportunities that were squandered. But I guess I look at it from a reverse standpoint in 2017-18, where Nebraska piled up a bunch of wins and none of the brackets liked their metrics and nobody was putting them in. They were all accurate in that regard. I tend to think that the people like Jerry Palm and Lenardi and others have a pretty strong indication as to where this is going now in 25. I mean, when they get it wrong, they get wrong by a team here or there. Now, could Nebraska be that team? Absolutely. I guess at this point, there's really no reason to argue whether that's a possibility or not until they put themselves in position where it matters. So if they win against Ohio State and Iowa, then it would behoove them to probably win at least one game in the Big Ten tournament too, right? But, I mean, we just won't know until you get there. And right now, the way they're playing themselves out entirely. So I don't disagree with what you're saying. I just think with the bubble seeming as soft as it is, and there's just being this wealth of confidence and the amount of quad one wins they have, would they be adding another one today if they were to win this game? Is that right?
Yes,
correct.
I believe so.
So, I mean, I just think I'll go with what the people are saying. But yeah, it's not like last year where they reached lock status, going into the month of March. Like it's going to be a nail biter, even regardless of kind of how this thing goes over the next 3 games. 3, assuming they win either of these and guarantee themselves a spot in the Big Ten tournament.
Mike J., let me ask you something, because and this is kind of on the heels of the combine, and we've been having this conversation basically since last week with Nebraska players going into the combine. And my take on it is there just seemed to be kind of these camps on how excited Nebraska fans were about the players that were at the combines and the results. And Ravi said something tail end of last week, and again kind of doubled down on Monday and Tuesday, and this was more with regards to Fedoni, that he thinks there's this bit of, you have to quote me if I'm wrong, a little bit of the resentment, instead of kind of rallying around the good testing performances and that Nebraska players have had success. He kind of went back to whether it's Juergens or a lot of these guys that have better pro careers that they had at Nebraska, that there's kind of this eye-rolling component, like resentment builds up from it. Do you get that sense from your guys, like on the boards and stuff like that, that there's almost resentment that they do well at combines and it didn't correlate to their actual playing career?
I think it depends on the player and on the situation. I think it's also important to acknowledge that the combine isn't necessarily real life, and you can train for a combine and you can train to do things right to help with some of these scores. And it's also important to acknowledge Thomas Fedoni was the #1 tight end in the country in the 2021 recruiting class. Like, he was a physical specimen as a high school player. He was one of the best high school players I have ever seen, which means nothing to the conversation. I just wanted to add that. But it's not like he didn't have a pedigree of being an outstanding athlete. So we shouldn't be surprised in a scenario where it's be as athletic as you possibly can, that a guy that everybody agreed was a really, really good athlete would go be a good athlete. Does that mean he's going to be a really good NFL tight end? Does that mean he can hold up at the point of attack on the edge when he needs to block? Does that mean a team looking at him would be comfortable as your second or third string tight end if the primary function is blocking? I mean, so there's so much that goes into that conversation. But to the larger point that I think Ravi was getting at, I think people really resent when players leave a year early, when they don't stay with Nebraska the entire time. I mean, think of what the conversation was with Cam Juergens. Oh, he's not going to get drafted that high. I mean, go back to Malik Collins and Vincent Valentine when they left early. And it was, oh, these guys aren't going to get drafted that high. I just think like
it goes all the way back to Brandon Jackson. Remember? Brandon
I mean, it's just, there's this level of doubt that, these guys need Nebraska more than Nebraska needs them. Like, they're not going to be able to survive out there in the big, cruel NFL world without us. And I like that. That's kind of permeated throughout. So when Thomas Fedoni leaves to go to the NFL and he didn't have that grand of a career at Nebraska, though I would argue he was a bigger contributor than people seem to discuss sometimes.
Yeah.
I like that's not really a surprise to me, and nor is his performance at really any of these guys. I mean, they were all well-regarded players. Isaiah Nair is maybe the one where he went to Wyoming, and so he didn't have the track record or the pedigree of being an elite athlete. But everybody else, I think, that we're talking about here, whether it's Tommy Hill, whether it's Cam, whether it's or not Cam, whether it's Ty Robinson, whether it's Fedoni. I mean, they're highly rated guys, like top 247, top 100 players in the country. But the pedigree is there for them to be elite athletes. This is why I argued Nebraska underachieved in 2024. They had a better roster. They had more talent on their roster.
Oh, yeah.
The talent discussion was idiotic at the time, and it remains idiotic now. And they should have won more than 7 games, and everyone should feel that way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to argue with
There's
that. I look at the roster share and go, that's an 8-win team, like regular season, not including the bowl game.
I mean, I thought it was a 9-win team
Minimum.
going into it, and then obviously things went away from it.
It was
but
minimum an 8-win team.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm not going to, I mean,
I don't have any problems with that.
You're not gonna-
I think the staff feels like that. I think the players feel
oh,
like
I definitely think the staff feels like that.
and why so the thing that I like is Coach Rule is not going to rest on that. He said he himself had to get better. He wanted to upgrade his staff. I think he was very selective. And there's 2 things. I'm going to get to this in a second. So hold this thought if you can kind of split your brain. So the first part of your brain, I'm saying I'm with you. I think he pushed every button he could on revamping this staff and kind of being better on paper going into 2025 than maybe preseason of 2024. I think he feels better about his staff. He wanted to upgrade, and it starts with him. The other thing is I think there's a little bit of a misnomer that because they went portaling the way that he did, he still got guys in the portal that they have to develop. So there's still a developmental piece to portaling. He's trying to build a buffer at the same time. And I get it. The roster looks different because it's new guys, but it's still, I think, in my opinion, closer to being a developmental roster than not. So you can tackle that kind of if you split that thing.
Let me lob a grenade into your Wednesday at 9:26 in the morning.
I think it's still Tuesday, but that's okay.
Lord, here we go.
Tuesday. I don't even know what day it is. I was just excited to throw a grenade. Hopefully I didn't pull the pin before I asked the question.
Seconds is it?
I don't know.
Let me throw this at you guys, because this is what I am wrestling with in my brain when I think about Nebraska football for 2025, and I think about Matt Rule, and I think about all the conversation about a development program, and Matt Rule is a builder, and look at what he's done in his 3rd year at these other stops. Football in 2025 is a lot different than what it looked like when he was at Temple in his 3rd year, or Baylor when he was at 3rd year. I would submit to you that Nebraska going into their 3rd year looks a lot more like a transition program than someone who is built to jump off and move forward, because the coaching staff is different. The roster, there's not that much experience that you're building off of here. You're going to have a lot of guys in some new roles or in some expanded roles or in new places where cohesiveness may not be there. And that's what's big this spring, where you're going to be relying on people to make jumps as players that may not manifest right away before the season starts. So you're going to have to grow yourself into it. This doesn't look like a team that's ready to take off as much as it is a team that is transitioning from one viewpoint that Matt Rule entered college football back to in 2022 to where Matt Rule sees college football going in 2025. There's your grenade, gentlemen. How did I do?
Okay. A lot in there. Not bad. I like that. If my counter to that, it's not even a counter. I just would say, in addition to offensively, yes. I think the wide receiving core, what happens in the running back room, still your evolution of the tight end game. You're going to have a couple of new offensive linemen. I would say yes. I think you're right. The way that he's buoying that, though, or stabilizing it is, he still has his guy, the developmental guy, at quarterback. So new pieces around him, Dylan's evolution, that's kind of how he kind of stems or drops anchor. Defensively, though, I don't know how many new or portal guys you're going to see that weren't or didn't previously is the word I'm looking for, have something to do with the roster that they brought in. That's my gut. It's kind of my gut feel. There's still going to be the Van Poppels, the Keona Davises.
Yep. I don't know that the pieces on defense look so different in terms of the players necessarily, but the input that they're getting is going to be different than it was for the first 2 years of their career. So now how does that marry in the spring and the fall, and what does that look like as we start the season.
So yeah, so what I was gonna say is I like their grenade. I don't know if I would jump on
You're
it.
gonna fall on it,
but I think you're right. But I think you're right in terms of transition, but for vastly different reasons. Offensively, more new pieces. Your quarterback's still the same. You're hoping you can establish continuity. Defensively, it's the voices. I mean, there's a lot of different personalities over there with Snow and Butler's roaming role and Phil Simpson back and Brad and the voices over there seem much more transitional than the actual players that I think will be taking the field on that side of the ball. So I think,
to me, it feels like a bit of a reset. Like that's what the third year is. And it's not, I don't know that I look at it that this is a big jumping off point. Like, okay, they're going to race out to X amount of wins because Matt Rule's in his third year.
when you listen to him though, don't you get the feeling, because he's kind of intimate. He kind of, was it McAfee when he's like, year 3, right? I do well, like no pressure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I think he feels that this has got to be a good year though.
Oh, I think he feels immense pressure. He wouldn't have made those moves and done everything. I mean, what I appreciate about Matt Rule,
I don't think he thinks transition.
Well, I can't speak to that.
Well, I think that's why he kept. That's why he surrounded Butler with the pieces that he did. Right. I think he thinks he may have upgraded at D-line, which if he's right, man,
watch out.
Kudos and shout out. But he still got Dvorak. I think he gets a similar personality in Addison. He gets Snow's philosophy and ability to adjust on the fly. But the regiment under Butler is still the same as it was a year ago. I think. Shane, stop doing that. Thank you. We're not kicking you off yet, Schaefer. Sorry about that.
It's your show. I just happen to be here throwing grenades in the middle of the end of my interview segment. So
I mean, I'm gonna be shook by that.
So
because it makes sense the way you worded it.
Schaefer, let me ask you this: if you feel this is a transitional year,
or reset year might be a better word for
reset in terms of philosophically, you mean?
Philosophical reset.
Can I ask something real quick before you go?
Yeah.
When you say reset, Schaefer, I need to know what you mean.
I think that he is shifting from what he viewed college football as, or his priorities of what he viewed college football as when he left Baylor versus what it is now. I mean, it's a different sport. It is not 2019 anymore. So he has had to adjust.
So I just want to, because I didn't want to think reset like they're going back. I think it's just something different.
Yeah, so transition to me meant they were moving to something different. Reset more or less is like, I don't know that they're building upon the principles so much of 23, 24, because I feel like they're trying to go at it a different way. I need a better term for this. Anyway, sorry.
I tell you, I'm going now.
So if you think it's a reset, transition, whatever the term we want to use, year, that a re-transition set. What does that mean to you in terms of win expectations, or have you not got there yet?
I haven't gotten there yet. Like, that's what I'm struggling with, trying to piece this thing together. And it's a quiet time of February and March right now where you can talk yourself into stuff before we get some spring news and updates on injuries and everything else. As Damon said, I mean, the centerpiece of all of this is Dylan Raiola on offense, and they're surrounding him with some different things, and certainly a different offensive coordinator and conceivably a different philosophy for how you're going to do things. And also onto that, different wide receivers who might attack differently. So that's in sort of an upheaval. But I think the baseline standard for this season is to improve upon a year ago. I feel like people are going to be unhappy if they don't get to 8 wins this year.
Oh, yeah.
And that feels like a relatively low bar for a third-year coach. But I'm also not trying to be like, hey, you got to be at 10 wins. They got to be ranked by the end. I don't want to do that. But I think the minimum amount of progress that seems acceptable to me is 8 wins. And quite frankly, it's winning more conference games or showing growth as a coach too. I mean, they've given games away. Can they stop doing that at some point? Can they stop being the team that when the chips are down, turtles, and be a team that finishes games?
Oh, I thought you meant like on your back, like flipping the
No,
legs up.
pucker.
Oh, puckers up.
Operation
I
pucker.
think either one works, gentlemen.
I think both are accurate. Schaefer, we appreciate the grenade. We appreciate the conversation.
I
as
won't be the
always.
same the rest of the day, man. Enjoy my text after this.
Schaefer.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Later, buddy.
Thanks. I got it. That's
Mike Schaefer from Husker 24/7. That's an interesting.
I
way.
love Daniel's response though, because he's like under that. Explanation
Premise. Yeah.
Everybody's kind of resetting.
And that's sort of how it feels in general in college football almost every year, right? Like
I'm telling you though, you guys are underestimating the developmental piece. He didn't get most of his guys he got out of the portal weren't ready made. Even McCullough has work to do.
Let's talk about that when we come back. But before that, I want to talk about For the Greater Good. It's UNMC and Nebraska Medicine's 24-hour giving day, during which alumni, students, faculty, grateful patients, whoever, the community at large, come together to raise money for scholarships, research programs, student groups, patient care, and more. You can start your giving now all the way through March 27th, but the real period starts March 26th at noon, goes through March 27th at noon. They're trying to get up to 2,100 gifts to help support UNMC. And you'll get one of these cool little hats that DB and I both have if you give a gift of at least $75 during that March 26th to March 27th period. Find out everything you need to know, greatergoodgivingday.org.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. will be back. We will be back.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Live. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, and we are brought to you by our friends over at Centris Federal Credit Union. You know there is such a thing as the credit union difference, and Centris brings it to the table. When you bank with a credit union, we're banking with people that live, work, and play right in your community, and that matters when you're with an organization that believes in the power of helping people. That's Centris Federal Credit Union. Make sure you get to centrisfcu.org to check out all the services they can provide you with, and go there with the comfort of knowing you're with people in your own community. It's centrisfcu.org, federally insured by NCUA.
No, Schaefer's got me shook the rest of the day.
Yeah, he hit you with that.
Yeah, because I just think it's interesting, but he's not really wrong.
Sure.
I don't know what you call it, but I think it's what everybody's doing. I would just caution Nebraska fans. I would say this: we keep putting on the program that the chain, there's been a shift, a philosophical. We heard Snow allude to it. Coach Rule has said it's different, but we haven't quite said why. I think the fan base thinks something different than what the coaching staff is actually saying.
Oh, okay. What do you think the difference?
Because I do think we're getting it from the staff. I think we're talking about two different things.
What do you think the fans are talking about?
I think the fans think they're all in on this player acquisition through the portal.
Okay.
And they better get used to X, Y, and Z.
20 new guys from the portal every offseason.
I don't think that's what Nebraska's saying.
What do you think Nebraska's
saying?
I
think Nebraska's saying even if we do get guys from the portal to plug holes, we're still going to be we still have to be in the developmental business because we're playing the long game with our guys.
Yeah.
That's what I think they're saying. So I don't think the panic should set in that, because if you look at the way the roster's built with the Moseys, you just have to look and see what's in the room, and it will give you a gauge on the direction that they're trying to move. They're still in the business of supplementing, not supplanting. When you start talking about supplanting, then I think you can talk about a wholesale philosophical shift. That's still my opinion.
Yeah, so I would tend to agree. I think there's –
Don't let me talk you into it.
No, I don't think you have. I just wasn't sure what you
look at the guys they brought in. Who's ready-made outside of Rocco, and even Pritchett's not ready-made. He's got 12 starts, but he's clearly he has work to do.
Yeah, he's probably closer to coming in as a starter than some of the other guys. But I wouldn't say he's a finished product by any means. Rocco, I would call a finished product. You said in the last one you don't think Deshaun is a finished product. The only other one I'd put out as a finished product is probably Dane Key.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Dane Key's probably like, hey, wrapped up, ready to go get some balls, right? Like that's him and Rocco are kind of the only, I would call them Band-Aids, right? The only philosophical shift I think has really been, hey, instead of only going through the high school ranks or primarily.
I don't think it was ever that, though.
No, but last year there was
I think it was their preference.
Yes. Instead of their heavy preference, I would call it being, hey, we're going to develop with high school guys. I think they're like, hey, we can develop also with transfer portal guys. Not all transfer portal guys are created equal. They're not all $1 million guys out of the portal.
And he's still not at a point where they want to jeopardize their culture.
Right, with like a stopgap or a Band-Aid or whatever else, right?
They've shown that they won't overpay.
Look at the guys that
they won't be victims of the market.
Look at the guys that they've gotten out of the portal. Well over half of them are multi-year guys.
I said it from the jump.
These are not necessarily Band-Aid fixes. Now you go, okay, they had a couple places on at specialists, right, that they needed a couple guys, go get them. That makes sense. And then you're like, hey, we probably need instant help at a couple of these spots. They went and got an offensive lineman. They went out and got a wide receiver. Aside from that, most of the rest of this group are either young guys or guys with multiple years. McCullough kind of falls in that in-between zone, a one-year guy.
Because of his health.
A one-year guy that needs some development
and he's still learning a new position. And go back. I'm trying to I'm not going to lead anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Go back and listen to Phil Simpson's press conference. If nothing else, if you don't believe one word I'm saying or whomever else about the blend of what they're trying to do in the program. I thought accidentally, outside of him talking about the staff's development, he answered all of our questions, whether it's the guys in the room, the difference of the guys in the room, the blend of the guys in the room, the talking about the staff. And then even when he's asked specifically about McCullough, hey, we're still working on this, and this.
He's working here right now.
You have to still be able to do this if you want to do this. So I like the early stages. Hey, we're even looking at his frame, nutrition. Does that sound like ready-made?
That doesn't sound like a Band-Aid or a stopgap.
No.
That sounds like a guy they're trying to get better.
So I instead of hearing what we want to hear, I think we have to hear to acquire the information.
So
because I think the quiet that surrounds this offseason right now is 100% to do with both parties, not only the fan base and the media, but the coaching staff. The coaching staff is on this shut your mouth, go to work, just win football games. We're not talking about this. We're not believing this hype. We're not getting it. Hunker down and get better, right? Snow said Rule kept those guys for 6 hours. Okay, he's maniacal, and he's going to point the finger at himself.
Well, and Simpson said, "Hey, we've got something to prove as coaches." Right?
And that's why he liked the blend of the coaches. Again, just go back and listen to that. It'll answer a lot without us asking him one single question. The other thing is he's trying to insulate the players from believing the good or the bad. Just shut your mouth and go get better. Play football. That's it. That's what he wants them to do. Right? You know, some guys post these IG stories about accolades and stuff. And what does Coach rule? The eye roll emoji. Get off social media, go get better. Oh man, Coach, man, you're right. Hey, Caleb, you ran 21.92. Dad, zip it, man. Gotta go. There's more work to do. Right?
Yeah.
When the culture is replacing or is supplementing like a good father-son relationship, it's a powerful culture. Even if it hurt my feelings at the time.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, not done yet. Got more work to do. We got Mad Joe's in the morning. Came with a price. Relax.
Yeah.
Well, who are you talking to? No, I didn't say that. I thought it.
Oh, so you meant it though.
But so I don't think it's almost like we fast forwarded that. Oh, you know, we don't know these players and we can't get emotionally connected. That's not it. What it is they're not going to give you much. It's the whole painter thing. Hey, don't worry so much about social media. You have to get to the point where you don't believe your own hype and you don't believe your own demise. How many times has Coach Rule intimated, you know why we lose close games? We're not good enough. We're not good enough. Do you know why we can't win in all whites? Well, it seems like we only pull them out against top-tier teams. Maybe I bet if we pull them out against Houston Christian,
probably get that one.
We may win.
Yeah, you may get that one.
Stop overthinking it. Just get better.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, and there's this.
Oh, man, can't wear the all reds, man. You see the last time we wore all reds? Yeah, we played.
The surrender whites.
Yeah, man. We weren't having a ton of success against Oklahoma then, right?
Can I tell you how much I hate the
Dude, it drives
surrender
me.
white talk?
Don't get me started.
It's so dumb.
Hey, don't get me started.
But, I kind of think about when you're talking about sort of trying to get guys to insulate themselves from positive and negative, because we always think about the negative, especially here, right? Hasn't been great around here.
You don't like the throwbacks or the alternate uniforms? Stop wearing them against Ohio State and Wisconsin.
Yeah, go wear them against somebody that's bad. All right, we'll figure.
Try them against Purdue.
Hey,
see how that works.
The All Blacks look really good against bad teams.
It just drives me crazy how we believe our own nonsense. Like, we speak it into existence.
Well, so here's the thing that frustrates. I mean, we're always looking for an excuse. We're always looking for,
because we want to protect our feelings.
We're always looking for a reason when the reason has been they just haven't played good enough.
Yeah,
even if the roster's been good enough,
you're just simply not good enough.
Even if whatever else has been good enough, the play has not been good enough. And that, I think Coach Rule and staff would tell you the same thing was true last year. For what they had in the rooms, they were not, the play on the field wasn't good enough for what they were capable of. That's the bottom line. And that's the bottom line with.
His feel is off. Shane, kill the music.
That's the bottom line with this team. That's the bottom line with 0 for 3 today, bud. That's the bottom line.
You can't help but to love him, though.
With these
but the next one's a home run, buddy.
You got shot selection like AJ Storm.
Hey, listen, cut him off again. See if he gets pissed. One more time. Go ahead, start talking.
No, I'm good.
I'm just saying the next one's going to be a home run. If I cut him off again, he's not going to get mad, but Sasha will get pissed, so I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I'll just make a joke about you being premature a bunch today. It's not a big deal. No, the problem with this all is we aren't willing to just say, hey, that hasn't been good enough. We blame it on uniforms. We blame it on whatever else. And I think for once, this coaching staff is putting themselves in a position to be, hey, we're going to put in the work to be good enough, and then we'll let the results be what they may. We're not going to listen to all this other stuff. But here's the other thing that I think you said that's important. In trying to insulate from not just the negativity, right? Because that was sort of the conversation with like Thomas Fidone earlier this week is, don't clap back at the negativity. Don't do this, whatever. The positivity can be as damaging if you believe your own hype.
Especially if it's not habitual enough.
And if you're not there yet, if it's not real, right? If you're out there and if you're a guy that has some early success, but you don't have the track record and you're not really that guy yet, you have to have some self-awareness to know, hey, I got more work to do. If you're Caleb and you're like, hey, let's say he breaks 22 miles per hour. That'd be incredible, right? Let's say he breaks 22 miles per hour. Guess what? He hasn't started a game yet. He knows that.
Yeah.
He knows like 22 miles per hour gets me 0 wins. I have no wins.
Do you know how I know he's right?
How?
Try rushing for 127 yards against Texas Tech and out rushing Bam Morris and getting your ass benched the very next week in Pasadena because you can't handle success.
Sure.
That's not him.
No.
That's his old man.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
Don't believe the good either.
The positive, there's this, and as I'm telling this story, we can go to break, Shane. So there's this, I've talked about Roger Federer and his only winning 54% of his career points, right? He tells this story. He was given a talk, and he goes, hey, the reason I pay attention to that number is because, hey, I hit this incredible overhand, backhand winner. Guess what? There's a chance I'm going to lose the next point. A pretty good one. Probably about a 50-50 chance I'm going to lose the next point. So just keep going. Hey, I hit this shot. I sky it way out. Terrible shot. It's all right. There's a pretty good chance I'm going to get the next one because there's 50-50 next point. Like, you got to stay even in these games and in these seasons because you're not as good as the good. You're not as bad as the bad. You got to stay in the middle, and that's where you find a level of consistency Nebraska has been struggling with for the better part of a decade. We'll wrap up the show coming up next here on Hurrdat Sports Live.
be back. We will be back. We will be back.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
We're back here to wrap up Hurrdat Sports Live here on a Tuesday. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. Let's get to a little bet on it here, DB. Any games you like tonight?
Yeah.
But still, you know.
I got a few.
What do we got?
I like Toledo.
Toledo
hosting Akron. 23-6 and 16-13 Toledo. Little disparity within the conference. Chunky number 5. I do like your Rockets.
You taking Toledo?
Yeah.
Ken Palm has it an 8-point game, so there is a gap there.
Yep.
What else we got?
I like Virginia Tech, the Hokies.
Big ACC guy.
Getting 8.5 from Carolina.
Ooh, okay.
Not
at home?
Not a chance.
You think Carolina wins but doesn't cover?
Yeah. And they could lose.
Yeah.
But I think they win and don't cover. So I definitely would take.
We got the Hokies plus the 8.5.
Yeah, baby.
What else we got?
And you're gonna love this one.
Uh-oh.
With all the hype.
Uh-oh.
All the hype.
So much hype.
Surrounding your Auburn Tigers.
Uh-oh. What are we doing?
I'm gonna take your Trev Alberts, Texas A&M Aggies, getting 4.5 at the house.
I've got it up to 5.5 now.
Yeah, give me all of them.
5.5 point dog. Texas A&M.
Give me all of them.
Well, I always knew you were a Trev guy, you know.
Yeah, I'm not saying wrap them. I know you crazy $5 parlay guys. I'll give you one more too.
Yeah. Well,
you want 4 and you can take your pick.
Yeah, I also want the local teams tonight. Not as a lock. Just give me your lean.
Well, I got something for you.
All right, what do you got?
Because I know I'm like the back of my hand.
Okay.
What would you make New Mexico, Nevada?
Ooh, I know you really like New Mexico.
Yes, I do.
I don't have a great feel on Nevada. Where's that? Is that the Pit?
No.
It's at Nevada?
Yeah.
I'm going to say New Mexico. What's Nevada this year?
16 and 13.
Okay, I was going to
10, 11, 12.
Them too, Coach Mac.
I thought they were in that neighborhood.
Choir.
Give me New Mexico by 6.5.
It's 1.
No.
Yeah, give me Nevada on the money line.
Ooh, that one's a little spicy. All right, see
Operation Stanky Leg.
All right, these are not locks just for people. These are just our leans on the local games tonight.
Take Creighton.
You got Creighton plus the 10.5.
Take Creighton.
And with Nebraska, they are now 6.5 point dog. It was 5.5 last I saw. 6.5 point dog at Ohio State.
I think that's as high as it'll go. I'll take the 6.
You want Nebraska?
Yeah.
Plus the 6.5.
Yeah.
All right, DB riding local.
There's four master locks.
I'll take it.
What is that?
I was trying to jimmy the lock.
What is?
Because it may not hit, but I gotta get in there.
What's happening?
You ever tried to jimmy? Yeah.
What is this? What's bolstered?
You rich guys have never had to jimmy a lock.
What does bolstered mean?
Like Jimmy Chitwood?
Him too.
You think he picked any locks?
Nah.
Not over there in Hickory?
I just think Jimmy liked to take the shot.
Hey, give me the ball. I'll make it.
I'll make it.
That is DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. That is bet on it for, what is it? What day is it? Tuesday?
Yeah, it's all starting to blur.
I'm like Mike J over here. I can't figure out what day of the week it is.
Yeah, thank goodness for that guy. I won't stop thinking the rest of the day.
You know what I'm going to think about for tomorrow, though? I'm going to think about why on God's green earth would the Dallas Mavericks announce that they're raising ticket prices.
You're tinfoil. You need double wrap aluminum.
A few weeks after trading their face of their franchise.
Yeah.
And the same day that the only other All-Star that they have healthy busts his knee up.
They won out.
Weird.
They won out.
The casino guys living in a state where gambling is not legal may not be all in on Dallas.
No.
Huh. Conspiracy Ravi will be here tomorrow. Regular DB here every day. It's Hurrdat Sports. It's Hurrdat Sports Live.
Gotcha.
Go ahead and hit it, Shane.